This is a world of superpowers where collars are the rulers. Every child must undergo an ability assessment upon turning 8 years old. Then, based on the assessment results, they're fitted with a special collar, which records their personal information and corresponding ability. The collars divide people into 5 levels based on color, which are, in order, special grade in gold, high grade in silver, common grade in bronze, low common grade in gray, and the very lowest, the evil grade in black. And our protagonist this time is Sam Noyet, an unlucky young man from the lowest rung of society. Because of the black collar symbolizing the evil grade on his neck, he is frequently bullied by those from the upper classes, let alone finding a decent job. Even entering areas with better conditions just to receive aid is an extremely difficult task for him. To make matters worse, the information scanner malfunctioned today, reporting an error. So Sam Noyet was stopped by the guards and denied entry into the administrative district. At this point, he hurriedly explained and asked to try again, but unfortunately, it was no use. While Sam Noyet was unsure how to handle the situation, a thug waiting in line grew impatient, deliberately yelled loudly, and then physically assaulted his head to force him to move elsewhere. However, handling blows was deeply ingrained in his blood, so the young man still didn't give a damn about the asshole behind him and continued to ask the 2 guards to scan him one more time. Seeing himself being disrespected by an evil grade, as if he were a dog, the guy couldn't hold it in and raise his leg to kick Sam Noyet. But luckily, Sam Noyet managed to dodge in time, causing him to be humiliated once again, looking no different than a clown putting on a show for everyone. Overly humiliated, this guy immediately pulled out a weapon to deal with him, but by this time, Sam Noyet had successfully passed the checkpoint and boarded the vehicle. Furthermore, the guards also stopped him and advised that if he had any grudges, he should wait to settle them in the arena. For this reason, the guy decided to temporarily spare Sam Noyet's life. At the same time, some rogue elements from the dregs of society were also observing the scuffle from a distance. Among them, a few jealous individuals were very displeased that Sam Noyet was chosen. They have no eye for talent, rejecting me, but choosing a skinny monkey who's still wet behind the ears. No matter how you look at it, I'm more capable. A competition needs both the strong and the weak to be interesting. Just think, if a pretty boy is defeated in the ring, the view count will definitely skyrocket. While those around were mocking Sam Noyet, one man suddenly spoke up in his defense. It's because of too many idiots like you that talented people with no abilities are deemed evil grade and toyed with by ability users. You all should be glad you weren't chosen, so you can breathe a little longer, you fools. Being insulted like this, the other guys got angry and retorted, "What the hell are you talking about? Aren't you also one of the rejects? Don't you walk away. Make yourself clear." One of them was about to start trouble, but was stopped by another because he realized the man before them looked a bit familiar. Not until the man brushed his hair up, revealing his entire face, did the 2 of them realize in horror that he was the king of the arena, Tan Thien, aka the one who held 8 consecutive victories in the arena. Afterwards, Tan Thien strode confidently onto the vehicle, to the utter, dumbfounded astonishment of the 2 losers. Elsewhere, Sam Noyet was already settled in his seat on the vehicle. But instead of worrying about his own precarious fate, he was afraid his friend at home would discover he had run off to the arena. Just then, Sam Noyet accidentally spotted the asshole intending to stab him in retaliation and quickly reacted and parried the attack. Because the commotion was so great, everyone on the vehicle turned their attention towards Sam Noyet, but the madman had no intention of stopping. Instead, he pressed closer and closer, forcing him to resist. The situation was indeed somewhat disadvantageous for Sam Noyet because he couldn't afford to waste too much energy on him here. He needed a swift victory or he wouldn't be able to handle the subsequent competitions. But if he made a move now, it was highly likely that the others would see through his true strength and he would become a thorn in their side. While the young man was hesitating, unsure of what to do, the big bro Tan Thien rushed in and landed a punch right on the other guy's face, to Sam Noyet's astonishment. Then he turned to chat with the driver. Tan Thien said, "He's in your care until we reach the destination. Leave him to me. He definitely won't wake up." It took Sam Noyet a few seconds to process the situation before him. With just a single, simple punch, Tan Thien had dealt with the burly guy, so if he ran in him in a match, he would be completely screwed. Although Sam Noyet was very worried, he still thanked him for his recent help. However, upon hearing Sam Noyet's thanks, Tan Thien just scoffed and reminded him that one shouldn't thank an opponent. It was merely because they hadn't yet faced each other in the arena that he had stepped in to handle the troublemaker. Very quickly after that, the vehicle carrying people like Sam Noyet entered the administrative district. The moment he saw the brilliant and luxurious cityscape before him, a country bumpkin in the city for the first time, like Sam Noyet, was completely overwhelmed. This was truly the place where the high grades lived, a world apart from the evil grade slum where he lived. Following that, Sam Noyet followed the others to an incredibly bustling arena to prepare for the competition. Since it was his first time setting foot in a place like this, he was busy looking around at everything in the waiting hall, besides the bustling crowd of people hurrying to prepare. To enter the arena, Sam Noyet also noticed the defeated contestants being loaded onto carts and mercilessly pushed into a grinder by the staff. Seeing the cruel and bloody scene before him, Sam Noyet couldn't help but lament. The defeated players are treated just like trash. Afterward, Sam Noyet was guided to a seat in the preparation room. Here, he not only met the damn dog who caused trouble earlier, but also the familiar faces from the vehicle. At this point, he noticed that everyone in the room was using some kind of weapon. One guy used a knife, another used bear claw fists, two others used a staff and a club. To sum it up, everyone here had their own weapon, and only Sam Noyet had absolutely nothing in his hands. In reality, the rule of the knockout round was that there were 7 contestants but only 6 weapons. The order of weapon selection was determined by the win rate predicted by the audience. Those with a higher predicted rate would get priority. The contestant with the lowest win rate could only enter the arena barehanded. And to make matters worse, Sam Noyet was that unlucky guy with the lowest rate. Although the situation was incredibly disadvantageous, he still tried to reassure himself that this was also good, because no one would bother to be on guard against an opponent with a rock-bottom win rate and only his bare hands. Most would only pay attention to the person with the highest chance of winning. In particular, Sam Noyet was very concerned about Tan Thien, who could be considered the top contender in today's battle. While he was busy observing, a tattooed young man with a win rate of 30.5% suddenly approached and started a conversation. Although he deliberately ignored him, this young man was very persistent and kept asking about his relationship with Tan Thien. Furthermore, he guessed that Sam Noyet was the type to hide his skills because, from his observation, Tan Thien only appreciated those with real strength. He even threatened Sam Noyet with his weapon to force him to tell the truth. But Sam Noyet was a tough guy, so in the end, he couldn't gather any more information. Very soon after, the match officially began, and before entering the arena, all contestants were required to wear equipment provided by the organizers to ensure the entertainment value of the competition. However, they never expected that the special equipment would be microbombs, although most were very dissatisfied for not being informed about this beforehand. In the end, they were just insignificant ants and didn't dare to refuse outright. On the other hand, this was a one-life game. One wrong move, and you'd be eating dirt. So many people hesitated, not knowing whether to continue or not. And only a few daredevils with more guts than brains, like Sam Noyet, accepted the microbombs without hesitation and headed straight for the arena. The rules here were also very simple. 7 people would combat each other for a brief 15 minutes. Those still breathing by the final minute would become the winners and receive the prize. Notably, the rules also stipulated that anyone who showed mercy would be blown to smithereens. At the same time, in a preparation room for the King's match, many people were also eagerly watching the battle and betting on who would be the final winner of this round. Initially, the vast majority of people thought that Sam Noyet would be the first one to be sent packing because he looked small and had no weapon in his hands. But very quickly, they were all proven wrong and realized something unusual. Sam Noyet hadn't made a single offensive move from the very beginning, but by some miracle, he could still effortlessly dodge his opponent's blows. Even though his opponent continuously attacked wildly with his weapon, he remained unfazed and moved with increasing agility. Finally, after a game of cat and mouse, Sam Noyet at last found an opening in his opponent's defense and decisively landed a punch on his face. However, his punch was too weak, so even though it landed, his opponent only suffered a few scratches and was not completely defeated. Not only that, because Sam Noyet had accidentally hit too hard, his own hand was in pain, and his opponent taunted him for being a weakling. What the hell was that? It didn't hurt at all. Haha. But his own sharp tongue was no slouch, so he retorted immediately, "Ah, it's just because your face is too thick." However, just as the two were about to clash, the bastard who caused trouble earlier suddenly ambushed Sam Noyet's opponent and declared that he was his prey. It seemed he held a complete grudge against him for the embarrassing incident on the vehicle and now wanted to settle the score. At this moment, there were only 10 minutes left. In the arena, one young man started to piss his pants in fear and begged to be let out, completely unaware of the consequences of this action. According to the rules, any contestant who dared to give up mid-match would have the microbomb on their neck activated by the staff in the audience and be blown to smithereens. Seeing the scene before them, many people felt panicked, while others, like the tattooed young man, seemed calmer, as if they were all too used to this sight. At the same time, Sam Noyet and that bastard were still engrossed in their game of cat and mouse. However, the situation was now extremely unfavorable for Sam Noyet, because his opponent was much stronger than him, and if he kept dodging like this, he would soon run out of stamina. At the same time, he couldn't just stall until the match ended. In moments of crisis like this, Sam Noyet tried to recall his training sessions with his big brother, Athwan. To survive in the place of exile, he and Athwan had never dared to be lazy in honing their combat skills. At first, Sam Noyet's strength and skills were very weak, but gradually he improved and could gracefully dodge all of Athwan's attacks. Before, Athwan could land several punches, but now he could barely touch him. Although he had to admit that Sam Noyet's reaction ability was very strong. Continuing like this was not a good solution, because if he encountered danger, dodging alone couldn't win a fight. So Athwan decided to teach his little brother how to attack and intensify his physical training. However, during training, Sam Noyet always felt very uneasy, because despite regular physical training, his body was always in a very weak state, as if it were cursed. That's why after a long period of training, Sam Noyet had not improved at all. Even Athwan himself found it very strange that his little brother's reaction and dodging abilities were getting better and better, but his strength wasn't increasing at all. Many times, he thought this might be related to the mysterious woman with the God-grade collar who appeared in Sam Noyet's dreams. But every time he brought it up, Sam Noyet would dismiss it. Seeing his little brother grind so hard without leveling up, Athwan could only console Sam Noyet not to be sad, because at least his enemies couldn't hit him. In the future, if he encountered danger, he just needed to run a little faster. Just like that, Sam Noyet grew up safely under the care and protection of a senior, but always hiding behind the one-armed Athwan made him hate his own weakness and incompetence. That's why he yearned even more to become stronger and not bow to fate. Even if it meant risking his life at the hands of this asshole, Sam Noyet didn't want to run away at all. High risk, high reward. Sam Noyet took advantage of the moment his opponent revealed an opening to charge forward and attack. However, he easily blocked his fist and threw him away like a stray dog. Even the observers in the stands found it strange, because his fighting style was sometimes strong, sometimes weak, making people question reality. Could it be that he was hiding his skills and preparing to unleash a finishing blow? At the same time, someone with a silver high-grade collar had unexpectedly arrived at the slum where Sam Noyet and Athwan lived. Back to the battle in the arena. Just as the asshole in yellow was about to make mincemeat of Sam Noyet, the tattooed young man suddenly threw a strange object towards him. Luckily, Sam Noyet quickly recognized it as a microbomb and managed to dodge it just before the other guy detonated it. It was only then that everyone fully realized his scheme, which was to use the microbomb to eliminate both remaining opponents while they weren't paying attention. As expected of the contestant with the highest win rate today, his tactic was incredibly vicious, catching everyone off guard. The guy in yellow, because he wasn't paying attention earlier, was now quite seriously injured, and his combat power had been greatly reduced. Meanwhile, although Sam Noyet had detected it early, he was still injured in the head by the shockwave of the explosion. Fortunately, the two mad dogs had pounced on each other and were temporarily ignoring him. However, what Sam Noyet didn't expect was that during the struggle, the tattooed young man accidentally dropped his weapon right in front of him. Immediately, the guy in yellow demanded that Sam Noyet quickly grab the gun and give the tattooed man a taste of lead to save him. But only when he saw Sam Noyet's cocky expression, which didn't look like he was going to help, did he truly panic, begging and promising to leave all the prize money to him. However, until the very last second, Sam Noyet had no intention of cooperating with him. The final result was that the guy in yellow was logged out of the server by the tattooed young man, officially out of the game. After that, everyone thought the tattooed young man would have a fiery comeback against Sam Noyet, but who would have thought? Another young man who had been hiding from the start suddenly snatched the weapon and quickly fed him several lead candies in a row, directly sending him down to the underworld along with the guy in yellow. At the same time, outside the arena, a mysterious young man was also quietly observing Sam Noyet's match. Then he used his ability to cut the power to the entire city, causing all the residents to fall into a state of panic. Over here, the arena area seemed unaffected, so everyone was completely unaware of the events unfolding outside. Moreover, the life and death battle between the two contestants was reaching its climax, so no one was in the mood to pay attention to the chaos outside. At this moment, after dealing with the tattooed young man, Sam Noyet's opponent immediately turned his sights on finishing him off. Looking at the situation before him, Sam Noyet felt he had almost no chance of winning. However, he still wanted to risk his life one more time to see what would happen. At worst, he'd end up on the altar watching naked chickens. The moment he fired the gun, Sam Noyet reacted in time and dodged the bullet. Witnessing this devil may cry, God may weep display from Sam Noyet, the entire audience was utterly goddamn shocked, because they never expected him to be able to dodge a bullet at such close range. Even Sam Noyet's opponent was now so scared he dropped his gun, suspecting him of being an ability user hiding his skills, because there was no way a black collar in this world could have such an overpowered ability. However, Sam Noyet was starting to show signs of exhaustion, so that guy quickly seized the opportunity and charged forward. Luckily, he could still fight back. After all, as long as he was fast enough, he could rely on inertia to win. But just at the moment he was about to finish off his opponent, Sam Noyet suddenly stopped his hand because he suddenly felt a terrifying power heading towards him. There were only a few short seconds left until the match ended, so everyone in the audience was extremely confused by his sudden stop. Immediately after, the entire electrical system of the arena was cut. While everyone was in a state of confusion, not understanding what was happening, Tanthien immediately sensed that this was no ordinary power outage, but was caused by an ability user. At the same time on the stage, the microbomb on Sam Noyet's neck came off under the effect of the electric wave, and the life and death battle between the two also had to stop. However, now was not the time to let his guard down, because Sam Noyet could clearly feel that someone was walking towards him. Very quickly, the staff asked both of them to temporarily pause the match and return to the preparation room with the audience to await announcements. But before Sam Noyet could take a few steps, the source of that mysterious power had arrived. Not going to thank your savior. Sam Noyet was like, what the hell is this? We don't even know each other, but you're acting all familiar. After that, before he could ask who he was, he immediately collapsed. Seeing the kid was so weak, the young man was also speechless. With no other choice, he had to carry Sam Noyet and leave, despite the staff in the arena trying to stop him. Elsewhere, Tanthien also seemed to have sensed the presence of the mysterious young man and vaguely guessed that Sam Noyet might be the key to changing the world. Although it wasn't convenient for him to show his face and interfere in the complicated matter involving Sam Noyet, he truly hoped to meet him again someday, not too far in the future. At the same time, outside the arena, the young man's conspicuous luxury car had accidentally attracted the attention of some thieving types. But before they could even get close, they were scared into pissing their pants by his electric wave and had to flee for their lives. On the other hand, Sam Noyet finally woke up after being hit by the electric wave. As soon as he opened his eyes and saw the young man who had kidnapped him, he immediately realized he was an ability user, based on the pressure from his body at close range that made it impossible for him to move his limbs. He guessed that this person must be a high-grade ability user or higher. But that made it even harder for Sam Noyet to understand why he would step in to rescue him, because he had witnessed with his own eyes how the so-called superiors trampled and toyed with the lives of people with black collars, let alone the fact that he didn't even know him. Although Sam Noyet wanted to ask the young man many things, compared to his curiosity, he still cherished his small life very much. It was best not to get involved with ability users to be safe. However, just as Sam Noyet was about to open the car door to leave, the young man suddenly spoke, introducing himself as Lu Trishuyan. As soon as he heard this name, Sam Noyet's brain immediately made the connection to the Liu family, the third-ranked special grade family among the 8 great families. This also meant that this young man was no ordinary person, at least high grade or above. At this point, the young man Liu Trishuyan also laid his cards on the table, directly pulling open his shirt to show Sam Noyet his dazzling gold collar. At the same time, he advised him not to think about running away because from now on, his life would be his responsibility. Liu Trishuyan even called Sam Noyet a child of a god. Seeing Sam Noyet's dazed expression, he slowly began to tell him a legend about a level above, even more prestigious than the gold special grade, called the God grade. A single God grade person could take on a whole clan of over 100 gold special grade people. That's why the God grade is considered a true existence close to the infinite. At this point, Sam Noyet remembered that he had also heard this legend before, and it seemed that God grade person was named Liu Tongdin. Hearing this, Liu Trishuyan revealed that Liu Tongdin was his great-grandfather, which completely shocked him. Then, with his infinite IQ, the young man even had this brilliant thought. I'm a child of a god. The child of a god is the child of Liu Tongdin. The child of Liu Tongdin is Liu Trishuyan's grandfather. Therefore, I am Liu Trishuyan's grandfather. Unable to let him distort his family tree any further, Liu Trishuyan immediately explained that the legend he heard was a fake version and didn't count. In reality, there have been a total of 3 God-grade individuals since the first ability user appeared, including his great-grandfather Liu Tongdin, Lord Vu Noyet, who possessed the abilities of prophecy and eternal life, and a man who disappeared shortly after being considered God-grade. And Sam Noyet himself is the biological son of Lord Vu Noyet, the ability user of prophecy and eternal life. Upon hearing Liu Trishuyan say this, Sam Noyet at first didn't believe it at all because he knew very well that he was just an evil grade at the bottom of society. So how could he be a descendant of a god grade? Even if he was on drugs, he would never reach that level of delusion. But very quickly, he suddenly remembered the mysterious woman who often appeared in his dreams. And if everything was indeed as Liu Trishuyan said, then it was very likely that she was Lord Vu Noyet and his biological mother. Seeing Sam Noyet's bewildered expression, Liu Trishuyan knew that the young man currently had many questions. But time was limited, so he promised him that he would slowly explain everything to him later. Anyway, the most important thing right now is to ensure Sam Noyet's safety, because his face has already been broadcast throughout the entire jurisdiction via the area's livestream. So next, it will very quickly spread to Tiannan City, and assassins will continuously appear to hunt you. Even Liu Trishuyan himself was certain that a new battle was about to erupt in the underworld, drawing in many underground forces to participate. Very soon after, the two of them left the territory of the jurisdiction and entered the slums where Sam Noyet lived with his brother. However, on the way back, Liu Trishuyan felt that Sam Noyet was quite silent, so he started a conversation, asking why he had to risk participating in the knockout tournament, because it was clear his strength was weak as hell, and if he wasn't careful, he could have easily gotten killed. Hearing that, Sam Noyet didn't hide anything and frankly answered that the reason was he was poor and needed money, so he had to bet his life. Suddenly, Sam Noyet asked him to stop at a mechanic's shop to buy something, but when the owner asked if he brought any money this time, our young man immediately turned to look at the person next to him. At this moment, Liu Trishuyan cluelessly asked Sam Noyet, but was immediately guilt-tripped by him. That, what are you looking at me for? Am I made of money? Didn't you say you'd be responsible for me? With that said, he was screwed. Liu Trishuyan ultimately had to accept being Sam Noyet's personal ATM. After the owner brought out the goods, Sam Noyet explained that he bought this for a friend named Thuan. He is a low-rank commoner who originally didn't need to be in this place of exile, but because I'm here, he used the excuse of his hand being inconvenient to not leave. I wanted to win the match because I wanted to buy this prosthetic arm for him. That way a Thuan can function normally, then go into the jurisdiction to apply for a legit job. However, in contrast to Sam Noyet's innocence, Liu Trishuyan was rather silent because he knew well that the match he had just participated in would change the fate of many people. Before leaving the shop, Liu Trishuyan didn't forget to remind Sam Noyet that anyone who comes into contact with you will become their target. If you want what's best for your brother, you should leave him quickly. After hearing these words from Liu Shuyan, Sam Noyet seemed not very pleased and deliberately avoided the topic. Let me go home and explain the situation to a Thuan. Then we can make a long-term plan, okay? Besides, I still have a lot of questions to ask you. Soon after, the two of them finally arrived at Sam's Noyet's house. As soon as he got out of the car, Sam Noyet couldn't wait any longer and immediately hugged the new prosthetic arm to bring inside and give to a Thuan. He even planned to tell a Thuan about his special grade status and eagerly awaited to see the expression on his face. Because he was in such a hurry, right as he stepped into the house, Sam Noyet carelessly tripped over something, and only when he looked back did he realize it was a Thuan's prosthetic arm. But before he could even react, a voice suddenly rang out, making him extremely terrified. "You're finally back. I've been waiting for you for a long time." If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. Hiding in this filthy place, a place that ability users don't want to come to, is indeed a good idea. It's a great pleasure to meet the child of God. As soon as he finished speaking, the lights in the house were immediately turned on, allowing Sam Noyet to clearly see the horrific scene before him. It was the sight of a Thuan, covered in blood, lying motionless on the ground. In that very moment, Sam Noyet completely lost his mind and couldn't process any more information. Meanwhile, that murderous bastard kept spouting nonsense that he was the first to discover the child of God, the one closest to God. The more he spoke, the more he stomped his filthy foot on a Thuan's body, causing Sam Noyet to be unable to bear it and immediately run to a Thuan's side. This motherfucker was such an animal that he insulted Sam Noyet, calling him a good-for-nothing, unworthy of being God's descendant, just because he was crying for his brother. Saying that, he immediately assaulted Sam Noyet and tortured him without a shred of mercy. Then, after confirming that he had absolutely no ability to fight back, being completely weak just like a normal person, this beast started to suspect he had found the wrong person, because the real child of God surely couldn't be this useless. However, to all his insults, Sam Noyet now had no reaction whatsoever. In other words, he was completely paralyzed by a Thuan's death. Seeing that Sam Noyet was useless, he used more force, tightening his grip to finish him off. It seemed like everything would end here, but how the fuck could the main character die? In the moment he was about to suffocate, Sam Noyet's soul accidentally fell into a mysterious dimension and was pushed into a black hole inside by a soul that looked exactly like him. The very next second, that other soul successfully seized control of the body and quickly turned the tables on the beast, leaving him unable to react and severely injured. Only at this moment did he sense the abnormality, which was that Sam Noyet seemed to have transformed into a different person. From his aura to his strength, he was completely unlike the Sam Noyet from before, so he became very scared and started to beg him for his life. This time, the beast was about to face a world of hurt from Sam Noyet. Although he was verbally begging for his life and admitting he was wrong, in reality, this guy just wanted to stall for time to find a chance to strike back at Sam Noyet. However, Sam Noyet was on another level, completely outclassing him, so he couldn't fucking touch a single hair on his head, let alone attack. Just when he thought he was about to get the child of God, he was stunned to realize that he could no longer control his body, having been manipulated and controlled by Sam Noyet's telekinetic ability. Very quickly after, Sam Noyet, or rather, the dark ego inside his body, proceeded to deal with him in a brutal way. First, he threw him far away, sending him flying into a wall, then used his ability to control surrounding objects to hunt him down. Although he was being relentlessly attacked by Sam Noyet, getting his ass kicked, somehow this guy still had the strength to dodge and run away. Only when he was struggling like a beaten dog like this did he regret why he had wasted time bullshitting instead of directly dealing with the target from the start. Moreover, he made a huge mistake in underestimating Sam Noyet just because he saw him wearing a black ring. While fleeing, this guy was quick-witted, remembering that the control ability has a distance limit, so he naively thought that he just needed to try to keep his distance until he ran outside to escape. But life isn't a fucking dream. Just as he was about to step his damned foot outside, Liu Shuyan suddenly appeared and blocked all his escape routes. This guy's brain hadn't even processed the information. While Liu Shuyan was here, when Sam Noyet came up right behind him and grabbed his neck like a chicken waiting to be slaughtered. At this point, not even God could save him. No matter how violently he struggled, Sam Noyet didn't budge an inch. He even tightened his grip so hard it broke his neck. In the end, the guy was finally out of the game and officially ended his beastly life. As for Sam Noyet, after finishing off the enemy, he just coldly kicked him aside and quickly turned to look at Liu Qishuyan defensively. Seeing this, Liu Qishuyan thought that Sam Noyet was going crazy and wanted to fight him too, but he never fucking expected that he would suddenly faint with a thud, making him feel extremely confused because no matter how he looked at it, Sam Noyet looked a bit different from the prophecy about the child of the Savior. Not long after, the real Sam Noyet finally woke up, and as soon as he did, he immediately called a Thwan's name, hoping that everything that had happened was just a nightmare. Unfortunately, what awaited him was the cold corpse of his late brother. Liu Qishuyan, standing outside the door, heard the movement and knew he had woken up. But perhaps because the pain of loss was too great, Sam Noyet just silently approached a Thwan to see his face and hug him one last time, before personally sending him off on his final journey. Seeing Sam Noyet so silent, Liu Qishuyan didn't stop him or say anything, just stood there and let him handle himself. After that, Sam Noyet dug a hole under a tree to bury a Thwan and sat there for a long time, from when the sun was bright until sunset fell. And perhaps in a brief moment, the devastated Sam Noyet saw the figure of a Thwan appear and encourage him to quickly pull himself together. Every gesture and action looked exactly like when a Thwan was alive, which made Sam Noyet feel even more heartbroken. But in the end, Sam Noyet still had to keep living. So, right after pulling himself together, he went to find Liu Qishuyan with swollen eyes and directly asked him if a Thwan's incident happened because of him. Upon hearing this, Liu Qishuyan frankly admitted it to Sam Noyet, as he had no intention of hiding the truth or offering words of comfort to him anyway. Although this fate wasn't something you chose, in his opinion, the most important thing you need to do is not to blame yourself, but to strive to become stronger so that things like this will no longer happen. In other words, Sam Noyet must become stronger, then change his own fate and that of others. In the end, Sam Noyet decided to look back at the familiar scenery where he used to live with a Thwan one last time before getting in the car to leave with Liu Qishuyan and officially begin the journey of the child of God's rise through the ranks. In Liu Qishuyan's car, Sam Noyet suddenly recalled the strange incident when his soul was about to leave his body. Clearly, at that time he had felt his body being possessed by someone, but could do nothing but quietly watch him act. What was noteworthy was that person and Sam Noyet had identical faces, but he possessed an ability that was many times more terrifying than other abilities. For a few brief moments, Sam Noyet even had the thought that if he had been that person from the beginning, perhaps a Thwan would still be alive. Although this thought only flashed through Sam Noyet's mind, it made him feel extremely uneasy because even he himself didn't fucking understand why he could have such a thought. After that, Liu Qishuyan drove around the exile slums instead of going to a fixed location. Sam Noyet found this rather strange and asked him what on earth he was trying to do. At this point, Liu Qishuyan told him his purpose, which was that they had to choose a building with a good view to serve as their base. Finally, after beating around the bush for a while, Liu Qishuyan finally targeted a tall building in this exile slum. However, this was the territory of the Black Bear Gang, a notorious gang in the area that usually made a living by illegally selling supplies and prosthetic limbs. Seeing the two goons guarding the door with heat on them, Sam Noyet started to get scared and advised Liu Qishuyan to leave to avoid trouble. But a special grade ability user like Liu Qishuyan wasn't afraid of some small fry shrimps like them at all. Your job is to stand aside and let me handle it. With me here, you don't have to be fucking scared of anything. Saying that, he immediately used his electricity ability to beat the shit out of the two goons guarding the door. Not stopping there, the young man directly rushed inside the build, single-handedly taking on the entire Black Bear Gang. Then he beat them all until they were charred black, forcing them to flee for their lives. But this seemingly surreal event only took place in a few short minutes. So much so that Sam Noyet was still dazed. Because he didn't understand what the hell was going on, Liu Qishuyan had already cleaned out the entire Black Bear Gang, and all he had to do now was move his ass in. On another side, the remnants of the Black Bear gang, after being beaten by Liu Shuyan until they ran with smoke coming out of their asses, gathered together in a corner of the exile slum. They were currently extremely puzzled, not fucking understanding why an insanely strong ability user would come to their tiny-ass gang to stir up trouble. Because it was clear that the two sides didn't know each other at all, that person is special grade, right? A special grade appearing here means something big is about to happen, right? No shit, didn't you see how he attacked? Lightning, you dog. This must be the person mentioned in the administration's news report. What about the person following him? That must be someone with a black ring. I couldn't have seen it wrong. Indeed, I've never seen an ability user hanging out with a low rank like that. After spouting nonsense for a while without solving a damn thing, they finally decided to go to their boss together to report and find a solution to the problem. At the same time, inside the jurisdiction, in the arena of the Death Seed Club, a group of mysterious people in black brought a girl with a mind-invading ability to search the memories of the employee who had been physically assaulted by Liu Shuyan earlier, in order to see who the culprit behind the commotion in the city was. A moment after using her ability, the girl finally came to a conclusion. It was a lightning ability user, Gold Ring, who was also accompanied by a teen with a black ring. As soon as they heard this, the people in black immediately guessed that the culprit was the young master of the Liu family, Liu Shuyan. It seems they didn't expect him to dare to openly confront the 8 great families like this. So they quickly sent someone to report the situation to headquarters first and temporarily ignored investigating the identity of the person with the black ring. As for Sam Noyet at this time, he seemed to have returned to the terrifying scene of the day. Thuan met his fate and came face to face with that beast, but luckily, all of that was just a nightmare while he was fast asleep. At this moment, Liu Shuyan was sitting to one side watching the news about the power outage that he himself had caused. Then, Sam Noyet looked out the window and realized it was already dark. Since it was rare for him to get such a long sleep, he lamented a little. It's dark already. How long did I sleep? It's okay. You can still sleep a little more because there won't be much time to sleep later anyway. Sam Noyet's mood completely dropped after hearing that. He couldn't even be bothered to speak. But sooner or later, the assassins would find their way here to slaughter Sam Noyet. So he had to try to become as strong as possible to protect himself. In particular, he would never know the exact moment the assassins would arrive. It could be as fast as a second or as slow as a day or two. Then, Liu Shuyan asked Sam Noyet if he was scared, knowing that he could face death at any moment. However, for a teenager who had gone through more than a dozen years at the bottom of society like Sam Noyet, life and death wasn't too big of an issue. To put it bluntly, there was nothing fucking left to be afraid of because life in the land of exile already had no hope of living long anyway. You only strive to live for tomorrow. There's no hope of living for the day after. One careless slip, and you become a punching bag for some goons to practice on, or you get your organs snatched without even knowing. You might just step out of your house and get stabbed by some random junkie. You never know. However, amidst the countless miseries, there were still a few good things that existed in this place that made him want to keep on living. Seeing the kid lost in thought, Liu Shuyan couldn't help but grab the remote to throw at him as a reminder. Why are you so dazed? Only then did Sam Noyet dare to ask him. Liu Shuyan, although I know you're very strong, what should we do if many enemies come? I don't want to get you involved. Hearing this kid worrying so much, Liu Shuyan could only scoff, then revealed to him that in fact, it wouldn't just be him, but there would be others. In reality, besides Liu Shuyan, there would be for more people. However, protecting Sam Noyet was not entirely mandatory, so he didn't know what choice those 4 would make. They might protect you as promised 18 years ago, or they might not give a damn about you. In the worst case scenario, those people might have already sided with the Lin family. Hearing this part, Sam Noyet felt something was off and asked him if those 4 people weren't their comrades. At this point, Liu Shuyan told him the whole story, which was that back in the day, Lord Vu Noyet had a total of 6 trusted families. Besides his Liu family, there were also the Han, Zhou, Su, Pei, and Yi families. Lord Vu Noyet's group believed that the rings would make people more evil. Moreover, he wanted to create a society where people with and without abilities could coexist, so he proposed breaking down the wall. Of course, this was met with countless objections from the great families. They believed that those lowly people were not on the same level to live on the same piece of land with them. So Lord Vu Noyet's idea was utterly insane. Among them, the family that objected most vehemently was the Lin family, which allied with other families to launch a war. But before that, Lorvu Noyet had already sensed this, so he summoned Luchi Shuyan's elders to announce an important decision. I know this request is extremely selfish and dangerous, but I beg you not to forget our mission. Once we compromise, ability users will become the destroyers of the world. 18 years from now, oppression and exploitation will appear. Ability users will disregard human life. It will be even more cruel and heartless than our era now. There are two completely different worlds inside and outside that wall. This is the result of allowing ability users to increase their power. Today I will leave the choice in your hands. I only beg that your descendants can step in to save this child when the war happens. He is about to fall into a deep sleep, but I promise you, when he awakens, he will definitely be the one to correct this social order after the first failed battle. The special grades management of the rings became increasingly strict, and Lorvu Noyet was captured by the Lin family. Everything related to him was burned by them. Next, the ranking of the great families in Tiantan Nan changed completely. On the other hand, the Lin family divided Lorvu Noyet's trusted families and monitored their every move. So for the past 18 years, descendants carrying this great burden, like Luchi Shuyan, even if they met in real life, had to pretend not to know each other. They couldn't even contact each other to avoid attracting the Lin family's attention. It was because of this that Luchi Shuyan was also unsure about the number of people who would side with Lorvu Noyet. After all, 18 years had passed. There probably weren't many left who remembered this protection plan. After hearing Luchi Shuyan tell him everything, Sam Noyet finally understood, but he didn't feel honored by the Child of God label at all. On the contrary, he felt immense pressure from the mission on his shoulders. Moreover, Sam Noyet knew well that he had disappointed Luchi Shuyan, and Luchi Shuyan didn't hesitate to express his disappointment. I really wanted to see what the child who could change the world in God's words looked like. The result was very ordinary, which disappointed me a little. Although Luchi Shuyan later said that he didn't regret coming here, Sam Noyet was still aware of his own incompetence and made an excuse to leave. It wasn't until he went to another room that he could relax a little instead of trying to act tough in front of Luchi Shuyan, especially when he recalled Vu Noyet's words. Along with the not-so-good memories of the past, Sam Noyet felt even more hopeless. He even doubted the prophecy because, in reality, he couldn't even take care of himself, let alone talk about saving the world. Even so, he was still very unwilling to accept it. On the other hand, there were countless ability users hunting him out there, so he no longer had time to be a coward and had to cheer up, high risk, high reward. Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. The very next second, a fire-type ability user had found his way there to Alim. Inate Samangut. Luckily, he had good senses and managed to dodge the enemy's attack in time. Otherwise, he would have been out of the game. Right at this moment, Luchi Shuyan also appeared and told him that the one who came was Bui Tin Hoa, a descendant of one of Lord Vu Noyet's trusted families, just like him. Based on his not-so-friendly attitude, wanted to take him out as soon as he arrived. Sam Noyet immediately guessed that this person had become a traitor and sided with the Lin family. Not stopping there, Bui Tin Hoa continued to attack Sam Noyet relentlessly to corner him. Although Sam Noyet could easily dodge everything as smoothly as silk, if they kept this up, he would soon be exhausted and defeated. Moreover, Bui Tin Hoa could quickly find his position, while he couldn't even see his shadow at all. With no other choice, under the deadly pursuit of the flames, Sam Noyet had to flee, but he never expected that Bui Tin Hoa could also split his flames to ambush him from multiple directions. In the moment he was about to be burned alive, Sam Noyet at first thought that he had to try to hold on until Luchi Shuyan came to save him, but very quickly he dismissed this thought and looked for an escape route to run. However, no matter how desperately he ran, he still couldn't fucking shake off Bui Tin Hoa's stubborn flames. At this point, Sam Noyet realized that these flames were actually chasing his movements. So his only option was to make it so they couldn't sense his breath. If he just held his breath and timed it right to find the source of the flames, he could catch the fire controller. Finally, the young man decided to go all out for once. That is, instead of running away with his tail between his legs like other times, he chose to stand still and face the oncoming flames directly. And in the very moment Sam Noyet's body collided with the flames, a huge explosion occurred, causing Bui Tin Hoa to temporarily be unable to sense his breath anymore. By the time he detected Sam Noyet's presence, it was too late. Sam Noyet had succeeded in finding his position. However, when facing Bui Tin Hoa, the young man froze up completely because he didn't know what the hell to do next, because after all, he was now just a black ring with no ability. So Bui Tin Hoa just needed to snap his fingers, and Sam Noyet would be sent to meet his ancestors. But how the hell could the main character die? Just when Sam Noyet thought he was about to be toast, Bui Tin Hoa pulled a sharp U-turn. Not only did she reveal her true appearance as a totally slay older sister, Bui Tin Hoa also spared Sam Noyet's life, leaving him completely bewildered. Turns out, this was just a small test from Bui Tin Hoa to see if he was worthy of her protection. Luckily, with the author on his side, Sam Noyet managed to pass, although he was now tired as hell, panting like a dog. But the young man was still determined to hold on and not collapse in front of the beautiful lady. Just as Sam Noyet was about to lose his footing, Lu Chi Shuyan himself caught him, but before he could even say thank you, he got a smack to the head from him and was knocked the fuck out. Well, this is adult business. Little bro, you'd best not get involved. Afterward, both Lu Chi Shuyan and Bui Tin Hoa sat down to talk. Based on what Bui Tin Hoa had observed during the small battle just now, she noticed that Sam Noyet had sharp senses. But to put it bluntly, he was really just faster than a normal person. As the son of Lady Vu Noyet, to have inherited such a garbage ability, our future is so full of hope, isn't it? Clearly, Sam Noyet's performance just now was barely considered passable in Bui Tin Hoa's eyes. His combat skill was actually too much of a noob's to fight against powerful enemies. However, Lu Chi Shuyan didn't completely agree with Bui Tin Hoa's view, although he also had to admit that the current Sam Noyet was too green and inexperienced. Because just now, Sam Noyet not only had to face her attack, but was also able to hide his presence in the moment the flames were about to engulf him. Then he keenly found her position. You could say that no one else could have made such a judgment. So Lu Chi Shuyan still held Sam Noyet in high regard in terms of tactics, even if his physique was weak as a wet noodle. On the other hand, before Bui Tin Hoa arrived, he had personally witnessed some very interesting things when Sam Noyet confronted the assassin who had harmed Thuan. So his view of the boy was a bit different from Bui Tin Hoa's. In any case, they hadn't seen each other for 16 years, but looking at the scars on each other's bodies, they could still tell the harsh training they had been through. Now, the two of them just had to wait for the ally who would arrive tomorrow morning. Elsewhere, in Celestial City, at the council chamber of the 8 great families, everyone had gathered early to prepare for the upcoming meeting. Since no one had come to this place for many years, and it was being opened today, most guessed that something big had happened. Since Lady Vu Noyet's fall from power, the council chamber had lost its splendor, and now only a few demons who served as henchmen for the 8 great families came here. In fact, the demons are a force cultivated by the 8 great families and tasked with investigating the whereabouts of Vu Noyet's descendants. And they're also responsible for handling the bad things caused by people with special abilities. Looking at these shocking faces is enough to know that the members of the demons are no pushovers or good people. Soon after, they had all gathered to discuss the recent incident caused by Lu Chi Shuyan. Because Sam Noyet was with him, they had also started to notice him. This is Lu Chi Shuyan. Everyone sitting here knows him, right? He's the one who stirred up the ring testing area back then. In terms of strength alone, Lu Chi Shuyan is the only ability user whose power is close to God level. If it were me, I'd be hesitant to clash with him too. Therefore, they decided to try sending the mixed blood group to deal with Lu Chi Shuyan, but then they suddenly received other news. That was Bui Tin Hoa had also sided with the child of the god this time. Immediately, they had to change course, quickly sending another team to capture Sam Noyet alive and deal with Bui Tin Hoa completely. On the other hand, from this information, they guessed that there are currently 3 vassal families under Lady Vu Noyet, but for now, there's been no movement. The master weaponsmith Su disappeared 10 years ago, and moreover, has no descendants, so they don't need to fear Suda. Among the descendants of the Han family, there is a genius named Han Deep, but he spends all year in a sickbed and has no ability to fight. Another person is Zhu He, who was sent by the Zhu family to a temple to cultivate, and is also the person they feel is most dangerous and needs to be guarded against. To be sure, they even sent people to the Zhu family for a little chat, forcing forcing them to continue to obediently hide in their shells and not help Lu Qishuyan. But not long after, in a remote mountainous area, Zhu He finally learned about Lu Qishuyan's situation and the appearance of the child of the god. Although he was all alone and abandoned by his family in this godforsaken place, he didn't hesitate at all and decisively decided to join Lu Qishuyan's group, ready to take on the entire Lin family and those 8 great families. However, the young man had no idea that his every move was being targeted by a member of the demons. Elsewhere, at the Han family's private hospital, that same person appeared in Han Deep's hospital room with less than good intentions. Meanwhile, at the building where Sam Noyet's group was temporarily staying, a group of thugs, remnants of the Black Bear gang, had come looking for trouble. At first, Sam Noyet heard the noise below and thought enemies had come for his life, but it turned out not to be the case. As for Lu Qishuyan, looking at these nobodies, he couldn't even be bothered to speak. First thing in the morning, and they have to deal with these wandering ghosts and lost souls coming to collect a debt, demanding they come down and talk. While eavesdropping on the drama below, Sam Noyet accidentally recognized Qin Tian in the crowd. He was about to call out to him, but Lu Qishuyan quickly shut him up and stepped forward himself to refuse. "I have nothing to fucking say to you guys. Not you. I want to talk to the pink-haired kid you took." A conversation between black ring wearers, you understand? Being called out by name like that, Sam Noyet was a bit surprised, but in the end, he still agreed to talk privately with Qin Tian, leaving Lu Qishuyan and Bui Tin Hoa outside to protect him. Right after a simple greeting, Qin Tian directly asked Sam Noyet why a special grade user had come looking for him. Sam Noyet thought he had come to reclaim the building, so he was a little surprised by the question. But perhaps because he sensed that Qin Tian wasn't a bad person, he ended up telling him about his identity as the descendant of Lady Vu Noyet, that he was in the process of climbing the ranks to take on the whole damn lot of ability users in Celestial City, and that his allies now consisted of only the 2 people standing outside the door. If a normal person heard Sam Noyet's unbelievably crazy story, they would immediately think he was on drugs, but Qin Tian actually believed him right away. Moreover, he even knew Lady Vu Noyet, while Sam Noyet had only just learned his mother's name. All of this made him extremely surprised. Seeing the bewildered expression of the newcomer, Qin Tian slowly explained, "The tournament was the first day you left the land of exile, right? It's just that your mother's name has been forbidden not to be mentioned in recent years. I'm very surprised by your honesty, even though we've only met once. I could walk out this door and immediately reveal your location to those who want to capture you. Aren't you afraid?" However, based on his intuition, Sam Noyet felt that Qin Tian was a trustworthy person, which is why he told him. At this moment, Qin Tian could clearly sense the change in him through his eyes. Although there was still a hint of naivety, compared to 2 days ago, he had clearly matured a lot. And to repay Sam Noyet's frankness, Qin Tian decided to reveal a clue about his mother. It was about 20 years ago. He had gone for a job interview before joining the construction of a building in the management area. Back then, the location and purpose of the construction were kept top secret. Even the construction workers had to be completely blindfolded until they reached the construction site. As time went by, he gradually sensed that what they were building might be a prison. The special thing was that the prison held only 1 person. Moreover, during his work, Qin Tian vaguely heard the people there call it the prison of a god. That's why he guessed that it's very likely Lady Vu Noyet is currently in that prison. At the same time, he added that this was just his personal speculation, but if it were true, then perhaps his mother was still alive. Elsewhere, a member of the demon team had come to the Su family's villa to search for signs of life and accidentally discovered a small energy source from a mysterious room. Not seeing it was one thing, but once he saw it, he was shocked. It turned out that all this time, the Su family had been hiding a white-haired teenager in the Su family's base. Immediately, he questioned the teenager about who he was, why he wasn't wearing a ring, and what his relationship with the Su family was. Faced with his barrage of intimidating questions, the teenager remained silent, only quietly collecting data on his opponent. Then, he suddenly said his real name, which left him utterly astonished, feeling that the situation was too strange. He decided to charge in and beat up his opponent, but before he could even touch a single hair on the teenager's head, he was slapped so hard he flew through the wall. Only then did he realize in shock that the ultimate move just now was a shockwave emitted from the palm, which was also the special ability of the late master, La Tan Quan. But if this teenager was a descendant of the Su family, how could he possibly have La Tan Quang's ability? The more he thought, the more mind-boggling it became. This isn't right. This is completely different from the information we have. I have to report the situation here to the others and tell them to be careful. The remnants of Unoyet are not simple. However, before he could act, he was surrounded by fog and dealt with cleanly by the teenager in a single beat. At the same time, on Juhi's side, he was also facing a small problem as a member of the demon team had come to settle scores with him. At first, the man thought he could easily take Juhi, but who would have thought? He had gently neutralized his attack. Not only that, Juhi unexpectedly counterattacked, catching the assassin off guard, and only after beating the crap out of him did he decide to finish him off. Meanwhile, another demon member had found the descendant of the Han family, and only after confirming that Han Deep had truly become a vegetable with no ability to act, did he feel completely at ease to happily mess up the pretty boy. As expected of someone with a special great ability, how nostalgic. However, while he was enjoying himself, Han Deep's little sister unexpectedly opened the door and accidentally witnessed the shocking scene before her. "Fuck, let my brother go, you dog." As soon as the words left her mouth, the little girl jumped into combat. But unfortunately, this sneaky bastard was one step ahead. Not only did he counter, injuring the girl, but he also conveniently snatched Han Deep and left. Seeing this, the girl ignored the hell out of her wound and quickly gave chase, trying to get her brother back. Luckily, the head of the Han family, who is also the mother of the two, happened to run into him as he was escaping. Immediately, she blocked his path and warned him. "A demon comes to visit. Why not give us a heads up? We would have welcomed you with open arms. Why must you cause such a mess, sir?" However, this guy was not only unafraid, but he also had the audacity to curse right in her face that you're just Vunoyet's dog. "You must know what the Liu family is doing now. I came here under orders to warn you. If you want to live, you'd best not stick your nose in it. We will definitely get Vunoyet's descendant." Although she couldn't stand his cocky-ass attitude, with her son's life being threatened, she had to back down, and at the same time declared that the Han family does not care about the other descendants. After getting a satisfactory answer, he agreed to release Han Deep. But no one there expected this guy to play dirty by throwing Han Deep into the air and letting him fall freely to the ground. Fortunately, Mrs. Han reacted quickly and signaled her daughter, Olu, to move forward and catch her brother. Seeing that the fun was over, that guy finally decided to leave. Mrs. Han no longer had the mind to pursue the matter and ordered her people to take her son back to the hospital room first. As for her daughter Olu, seeing her mother let the demon off so easily, she was very dissatisfied and questioned her. "Was what you said true, Mom? That you don't care about the other descendants? Does that mean our Han family has to stand by and do nothing?" Brother once said that the appearance of special powers would surely make this world a better place. I didn't understand then, but I just know that it's not good at all right now. That ugly person hurt my brother so much. Why did you have to be so polite to him? Faced with her daughter's questioning, Mrs. Han could only remain silent because she understood that this was not the right time to talk about this. It wasn't until the assistant beside her reminded Olu to watch her words, lest someone overhear, that the girl reluctantly accepted. Afterward, the mother and daughter didn't leave right away, but lingered for a bit to check things over. Mrs. Han pointed out to her daughter the basic mistakes in the recent battle. First, Olu had shifted her attention without confirming if the enemy was dead, thus accidentally creating an opportunity for him to injure her. Second, when she needed to save someone, the girl didn't make the right judgment immediately and let the enemy get a hold of the hostage. Elsewhere, Sam Noyet was asking Chin Tian if he could describe the place called the prison of a god in detail. And according to what he remembered, that place was no different from a damn cage. There were several pillars surrounding a bedroom, and below the bedroom was a lake, and the liquid in the lake seemed to be lava. In particular, he was very impressed with the unpleasant smell that went straight to his brain there. While Chin Tian was describing the prison of a god, Sam Noyet also imagined and visualized its gloomy scene surrounded by lava. He even started tripping to the point of seeing his mother appear in his mental vision, but very quickly after, he realized that the person in front of him wasn't his mother, but his own dark alter ego. Immediately, fake Sam Noyet gave real Sam Noyet a bullet to the head. As a result, in the real world, Sam Noyet fell into an unconscious state, while in his subconscious, he met his dark alter ego dude. At this point, after seeing Sam Noyet suddenly collapse, Chin Tian was extremely panicked and called Lu Chi Shuyan and Bui Tin Hoa inside to check the situation. But no matter how much they called his name and shook him, he showed no other reaction. His eyes were rolled back, his face was dazed and expressionless, looking exactly like an addict. Meanwhile, deep inside his subconscious, the dark alter ego was closing in step by step, threatening real Sam Noyet to hand over control of his body to it. The oppressive feeling of the special ability was so strong that he couldn't move. On top of that, the dark alter ego deliberately used enchanting words to manipulate him while he was weak. Don't you remember? You were the one who summoned me first, when your friend was tragically harmed, when you had to face your enemies but couldn't do a damn thing. It was I who took over for a timid, cowardly person like you, and only I can win the upcoming battles. Give your body to me. I will not disappoint their expectations. Give you my ass. Although he really wanted to rise up and slap the dude in front of him, when faced with his ability, Sam Noyet couldn't even make a sound as he wished. Fortunately, just as he was about to be successfully seduced by him, Lu Chi Shuyan and Bui Tin Hoa on the outside managed to apply their abilities, helping him escape and return to reality. However, right after his soul re-entered his body, Sam Noyet suddenly grabbed Lu Chi Shuyan and demanded a fight with him, leaving everyone extremely surprised, not understanding what the hell was going on with him. Lu Chi Shuyan thought he had accidentally used too much electricity, causing Sam Noyet's brain to short-circuit, which was why he was talking nonsense. Meanwhile, Bui Tin Hoa checked his temperature to see if he was delirious. His temperature is still normal, just a little cool. Seeing that everyone misunderstood him, Sam Noyet hurriedly explained that he was completely normal, that I must have a special ability. Only by fighting will my special ability emerge. Fight me. Both Bui Tin Hoa and Lu Chi Shuyan, after hearing the young man's bold declaration, could only laugh their asses off that he really doesn't know his own limits. Moreover, it's an insult to me. But you helping him practice isn't a bad thing. At least it will make him realize the cruelty of reality. It's just that the enemy is coming soon. You must be careful not to expend too much energy. Who's expending energy? Me? I'm going to expend energy for him? He's so weak anyway. The battle will be over before I even warm up. At this point, Chin Tian suggested a suitable place for them to fight. Soon after, the four of them were at an abandoned empty lot, and before officially starting the fight, Bui Tin Hoa carefully warned Sam Noyet not to let Lu Chi Shuyan send him to meet his ancestors too soon. But that was exactly what he wanted, because only by getting close to the brink of life and death could he achieve what he desired. Seeing the determined, resilient look in the eyes of the struggling young man, Bui Tin Hoa knew she had chosen the right person to protect. As soon as the match began, Sam Noyet immediately took a defensive stance and focused as much as possible to grasp his opponent's movements. However, while he was busy deducing tactics, the young man Lu Chi Shuyan had already activated his electricity ability and created a solid barrier that surrounded only the two of them. Just like that, both he and him were separated from the outside world. Even Bui Tin Hoa didn't expect this move from him, so by the time she reacted, it was too late. Sam Noyet was now completely in Lu Chi Shuyan's hands. Even if he wanted to slaughter him right then and there, she couldn't rush in to save him. Open your eyes and see what a real ability user looks like. Your daddy is the best. While Sam Noyet was still bewildered, not understanding what the hell was happening, Lu Chi Shuyan quickly approached and ambushed him, catching him off guard. As a result, the young man was sent flying dozens of meters away and lay collapsed in one spot. Sam Noyet immediately realized that with his noob-level skills, he would never be able to see through Lu Chi Shuyan's movements. He even used just one finger to take him out of the game. This was no different from a new account running into the final boss. On the other hand, Lu Chi Shuyan had no intention of stopping, even though Sam Noyet was seriously injured. Hey, get up. My warm-up hasn't even started yet. At this moment, outside the barrier, Bui Tin Hoa was vigorously attacking the barrier to save Sam Noyet's little life. But unfortunately, the barrier didn't have a single scratch or budge at all. Looking at the overwhelming scene before him, even a seasoned veteran like Chin Tian had to admit that Lu Chi Shuyan was the strongest ability user he had ever seen. truly worthy of being called the one closest to a god. Bui Tin Hoa still remembered the ring testing day 18 years ago very clearly. At that time, the entire scene was shaken by Lu Chi Shuyan's ability, to the point that everyone there thought a new god had appeared. Even though at the last minute, the system displayed a special grade gold ring, everyone was still very impressed by the power of his ability. Bui Tin Hoa at that time also felt that Lu Chi Shuyan was incredibly formidable, and she was even determined not to lose to him in the ring trial. But life isn't a dream. Bui Tin Hoa ultimately only received a silver ring, one level below his gold ring. And according to her, he is such a powerful ability user that Sam Noyet certainly couldn't last a second inside, let alone fight. You could say that letting Sam Noyet fight Lu Chi Shuyan inside the barrier was no different from sending him to find his way to the grave. Besides, Bui Tin Hoa also had other concerns, which was that the enemy could arrive at any moment and she needed to protect this place. If the enemy arrived before they finished, the consequences would be unimaginable. Immediately, Qin Tian volunteered to stand guard. If any ability users appeared, he would quickly contact her. Seeing this, Bui Tin Hoa was very surprised, not understanding why he would proactively help them. At this point, Qin Tian didn't hide anything and frankly expressed his opinion, which was that many ability users were on their way to this land of exile to find Sam Noyet. Whether they were friends or foes, it was enough to prove that he had an impact on the direction of the world. Moreover, Qin Tian himself, along with countless other Black Ring wearers out there, wanted to see a different face of this world. So he was willing to bet his hand on Sam Noyet, even though he hadn't amounted to anything yet. Meanwhile, after taking a hit from Lu Chi Shuyan, Sam Noyet was lying flat on his back, on the verge of death. In return, he successfully entered a semi-conscious state and sensed the appearance of his dark alter ego. As soon as they met, he started talking nonsense, using sweet words to get him to hand over control of his body. Then, when seduction didn't work, he conjured up countless terrifying scenes to intimidate. Sam Noyet, beg me, because you're just someone who doesn't dare to face reality. What's the point of you continuing to fight me? Think about what those ability users will do to you. You'll suffer a fate worse than death. They'll treat you like they treated your mother, imprison you, drink your blood, and eat your flesh. So just hand everything over to me. I will destroy everything for you and eliminate all ability users. Although fake Sam Noyet's words were very persuasive and tempting, from beginning to end, Sam Noyet was not trapped. Above all, he knew clearly that the dude in front of him was fundamentally not himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have forgotten what a Thuan had said before. Even if this world had no ability users and everyone was normal, the evil, oppression, and exploitation of humans would never disappear, because that is the very nature of humanity, and special abilities are just a very small part that contributes to it. In the end, Sam Noyet was not psychologically manipulated by fake Sam Noyet's bullshit and successfully returned to the real world. So, after a long trip, our young man could finally stand up to challenge Lu Chi Chuan, which made him feel incredibly excited. Now, this is what makes it interesting, right? Meanwhile, on the other side, the villains had begun to release their people to hunt the child of the god. You could tell at a glance that these guys were no pushovers. A guard had only looked at that girl for a moment too long before she pressed a knife to his neck, threatening him. What are you looking at? You think I don't know? Huh? Not only that, but this girl also used her special ability to attack and assault him in broad daylight. Despite being a Black Ring, she wasn't afraid of anyone at all. Even when someone pointed a gun at her, she remained fearless and continued to beat up the unlucky employee. It wasn't until her teammates spoke up that she finally stopped, and after dividing up the work and tasks, they quickly split up to set off. Soon after, one of them arrived at the management area, where Chuhi was passing through, to plan an ambush for him. Initially, Chuhi had already sensed someone was following him, but he never expected them to make such a big move. Not only did they brazenly attack from below, but they also continuously manipulated the surrounding buildings and infrastructure, causing many innocent people to be caught in the crossfire and catching him completely off guard. And it took a while for Chuhi to realize that the person wasn't attacking, but was deliberately moving the surrounding buildings, as if trying to disorient him and trap him in a maze. As soon as he understood the basic situation, Chuhi decisively parkoured onto the buildings to find an escape route. After all, he didn't have time to play games with the enemy. However, this guy was no slouch either, as he could easily pinpoint Chu He's location and continuously block his path by controlling the architectural structures. In short, neither of them was willing to give in. Instead of fighting it out, the two were stuck in a long back-and-forth struggle, to the point that he was starting to find this game incredibly lame. After all that running around, the young man somehow ended up back at his starting point. As for Su Ye's descendant, the white-haired teenager finally met the one blocking his path, the girl with pigtails on the bridge. Just then, his system suddenly issued a warning that his leg energy core could not be used normally, forcing him to make an early landing. Elsewhere, Bui Tianhua quickly got an update on the situation from Qin Tian. And unfortunately for her, this time she had to face 4 mad dogs, instead of just one like Chu He and Su Ye's descendant. Even so, Bui Tianhua still looked absolutely ready for a fight, with a bring-it-on attitude that I'm not afraid of any of you. On the other hand, she also knew she had to stall for time for Sam Noyet's special ability to awaken. But if successful, she suspected Sam Noyet would probably have a remote control type ability like his mother. The important thing was that the weakness of such an ability was very clear. At a long range, he would be seemingly unable to attack enemies. Therefore, the only ones who could fight these 4 mad dogs were her and Lu Chi-chuan. Speaking of which, they were all black rings, which made Bui Tianhua recall the words her father had once said. 14 years ago, her father had told her about how the 8 great families were constantly taking action, relentlessly capturing black ring wearers in the land of exile. In just 2 short weeks, they had captured over 1,000 people, mostly children. He had considered many possibilities, and they all pointed to one conclusion: that the captured black ring children were actually being used to deal with Bui Tianhua's generation. Returning to the present, among the 4 of them, the first one to step forward and challenge Bui Tianhua was the purple-haired girl, Hamai. Looking at the giant barrier before them, they easily guessed that Lu Chi-chuan and Sam Noyet were inside. Our targets are in there. Once Mai is done with Bui Tianhua, they'll come out on their own, so there's no need to waste energy on it. At that time, you handle Sam Noyet, and I'll take Lu Chi-chuan. I have to see just how strong the person rumored to be closest to a god is, or if people of our god-level professor class are stronger. At the same time, inside the barrier, both Lu Chi-chuan and Sam Noyet were still completely unaware of the situation outside. Instead, they were trying to focus as much as possible on their own personal match. On the other hand, Sam Noyet had just gone through an extremely dangerous situation, nearly having his body taken over by his fake counterpart. But thanks to him, he had now awakened the ability to see through everything around him. Since he had no idea what the hell the name of the guy who looked just like him was, he decided to call him Xiao He. However, it seemed he didn't like this name very much, so he started to protest by trying to control Sam Noyet's hand to force him to slap his own face. Lu Chi-chuan, watching from the side as Sam Noyet suddenly started acting like a complete idiot, was at a total loss for words. Not only that, but Sam Noyet then made an epically stupid move by boldly challenging him. Come on, Lu Chi-chuan, I will definitely block your next attacks. Immediately, a barrage of electric bolts shot toward Sam Noyet, but unlike the first time, he could now dodge smoothly thanks to knowing the trajectory of Lu's attacks in advance. At this moment, Sam Noyet couldn't help but agree with Xiao He. He truly was someone who existed like an ant at the bottom of society. But if it weren't for his desperate struggles over the past 18 years, Xiao He certainly wouldn't exist today. Therefore, when it came to who was better at survival, it wasn't certain that Xiao He could surpass Sam Noyet. Moreover, this was the first time someone other than Chun had been by his side. Although Sam Noyet had improved a lot compared to before, now able to move flexibly and dodge all the attacks, in the end, his skill level was still too raw to beat Lu Chi-chuan. So, after a back-and-forth struggle, Sam Noyet was finally caught by Lu Chi-chuan and subdued. On the other hand, based on Sam Noyet's dodging movements earlier, he had easily figured out that he had awakened a special ability and could see the future. While Lu Chi-chuan and Sam Noyet were fiercely combating inside the barrier, the situation outside wasn't much better. As Hamai started conversation, asking about Bui Tianhua, we received 2 missions. One is to capture the descendant of the god-level Sam Noyet alive, and the second is to take your life, Bui Tianhua. Satisfy my curiosity a little. Whisper to me why the 8 great families don't want the life of a special grade, but rather the life of a high grade like you. After all, you're just a silver ring. As soon as she heard her sore spot, silver ring, being mentioned, Bui Tin Hoa could no longer hold back and immediately flared up. What the hell did you just say? Just a silver ring wearer. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Seeing that her opponent was completely enraged, Hamai even deliberately added fuel to the fire with an incredibly fake-sounding apology, making Bui Tin Hoa even more furious. She immediately sent a line of fire to singe some of her hair. Very quickly, the two lionesses charged at each other and began to fight fiercely. Although Bui Tin Hoa launched nothing but vicious attacks aimed directly at Hamai, the other girl was no pushover, continuously moving skillfully and easily dodging them all with great skill. Therefore, it wasn't long before she was able to get within close range of Bui Tin Hoa, forcing Bui Tin Hoa to switch to close combat. Not only that, but while the two were exchanging martial arts, Hamai's insolent mouth relentlessly provoked and taunted Bui Tin Hoa, calling her a worthless silver ring. However, Bui Tin Hoa didn't let her guard down because of the girl's bullshit. She was clear-headed enough to assess the situation and detect the dirty tricks of the three mad dogs up above. It didn't stop there. Hamai continued to play games, relentlessly provoking Bui Tin Hoa to piss her off, but the joke wasn't funny. The beauty was now furious. Instead of continuing the cat-and-mouse game, she blew the girl away with a single direct attack. You'd think Hamai would have learned her lesson after getting her ass handed to her. But no, this girl was still stubborn and asking for more. Ha ha ha. It's been a long time since I've had this much fun, Bui Tin Hoa. I have to admit, you're one of the most skilled ability users among the silver rings. I think I'm starting to like you even more. Seeing her crazed appearance, Bui Tin Hoa knew this battle was far from over. Moreover, her comrades above remained very calm, not showing the slightest bit of worry, as if they had already predicted what she was about to do next. In another development, at some secret research base, the supervisors watching through the cameras discovered another child with a black ring had successfully mutated. Very quickly, they went to the child cell to check, but before they could do anything, one of them was pounced on and mauled by the child. Immediately, another one quickly arrived and put down the poor child. It could be said that this base was nothing short of a living hell for the black ring children brought here. Not only were they treated as lab rats for experiments, but they were also brutally physically abused whenever they tried to escape. They were even considered so worthless that no one cared if their lives were taken. And after being dealt with, the children's bodies would be treated like a type of waste, carelessly processed to be incinerated. In these people's inhumane experiments, it would take hundreds of children for maybe one to successfully mutate, but this didn't mean that the successfully mutated child could continue to live safely, because the people here never valued the lives of black ring wearers. The moment the children showed the slightest intention of resisting, those people would not hesitate to kill them. And according to the old man working here, ever since this building was constructed, the incinerators here have been burning day and night for over a decade without stopping, and the people inside have long since gone mad. After all, the black ring wearers are too naive, thinking that having a special ability will change their fate, allowing them to escape this place and win their freedom. But a black ring will forever be just a black ring. Returning to Bui Tin Hoa's battle, although she was severely injured and surrounded by a wall of fire, Hamai was still very stubborn, refusing to submit. Seeing this, Bui Tin Hoa also lost her patience and immediately demanded that she use her special ability to fight. At this, Hamai replied, "Who said I'm not using my special ability? No wonder I smell something foul in the air. Is this your special ability?" If she hadn't mentioned it, people might have forgotten, but Tin Hoa's sharp tongue is also not to be underestimated. Once she starts a verbal battle, no one can beat her. But unfortunately, in a moment of carelessness, she was unlucky enough to be hit by Hamai's attack and was poisoned. Seeing that her opponent had fallen into the trap, Hamai now directly showed her hand. "You made me kneel for so long. It's finally your turn." It turned out that since the beginning of the battle, Hamai had been deliberately trying to get close to make her move, so Bui Tin Hoa guessed that her ability was to paralyze the limbs by touching the opponent's body. However, contrary to Bui Tin Hoa's speculation, her real special ability was actually aging, a special ability that could destroy other special abilities. At this moment, one of her comrades, Zhao Kuang, suddenly remembered the time they both met at the research base 18 years ago. Back then, they were both just children around 8 to 10 years old who had been captured and brought to the concentration area. There, all the boys and girls had their hair cut short and were herded into a communal shower room. Among the captured children, Hamai was the most noticeable because of the patchy scars on her body. Hey, that thing on your body, is it a contagious disease? It's disgusting. Hearing this, Zhao Kuang also looked over curiously and met the girl's hateful gaze. Afterwards, they and the other Black Ring children were moved to a large auditorium to be briefed on a project called the New High-Grade Creation Plan. And, according to the adults, this would be the place that would change the fate of the Black Ring wearers. The mutation experiment would stimulate the children's true potential, thereby helping them escape their lowly status. They even promised that those who excelled and successfully mutated would be qualified to go to the City of Celestials. Faced with this delicious-looking pie in the sky, most of the children there were deceived and believed the sweet words of the people here. Only a few smart ones like Zhao Kuang and Hamai saw through their deceptive brainwashing tactics. Next, they were all guided to the dining hall to fill their stomachs before officially entering the mutation experiment process. Here, Zhao Kuang was suddenly ambushed by Hamai and almost lost an eye. You think I'm a monster, don't you? If you look at me again, I'll gouge your eyes out. It turned out Hamai was still holding a grudge about him staring at her in the shower room, so she came back to put him in his place. Luckily, a security officer arrived in time to tase her. Otherwise, Zhao Kuang would have definitely lost an eye. Before leaving, the officer didn't forget to warn them. The experiment is scheduled for an hour from now. Don't waste your energy at this time. Just eat up. And if you think about fighting again, you'd better watch it. Although he felt this girl was incredibly insolent and aggressive, leaving her lying on the ground like that wasn't good, so Zhao Kuang asked if she could get up. As a result, he had just barely touched Hamai when she immediately slapped his hand away, then ran off and disappeared, leaving him utterly speechless. Seeing this, his friend Tian Lang next to him revealed that Hamai was likely a member of the Silver Fox gang before being captured and brought here. Very quickly, all the children were moved to a special area for a checkup procedure before officially starting the mutation experiment. Perhaps their fates were not yet over, as the two quickly met again inside. This time, Zhao Kuang explained that he had stared at her like that because he thought she was really strong, not for any other reason. At the same time, he also apologized to Hamai for touching her without permission in the dining hall. After hearing this, Hamai showed no particular reaction, only reminding him to survive before quickly stepping into the containment pod. Not long after, once everyone was settled, the mutation experiment began immediately, and of course the process was not pleasant at all. In fact, it could be said to be extremely painful. Many children, despite successfully mutating and awakening their special abilities, ultimately only a few like Zhao Kuang and Tian Lang made it through. The rest all perished. Fortunately, Hamai also survived the ordeal and successfully mutated. And only after the process was completely finished did the staff here dare to enter to check the results. According to what they said, this zone had the best results, with 3 children surviving. The 2 adjacent zones had completely failed. However, this nightmare was not over, because very soon, the 3 children, Zhao Kuang, Tian Lang, and Hamai, realized that even though they had survived the mutation, they still couldn't change their own fate. They had simply been moved from one hell to another. Back in the present, the battle between Bui Tin Hoa and Hamai seemed to be nearing its end as Hamai prepared to take Bui Tin Hoa's life. All she had to do was touch her, and Tin Hoa could be sent to meet her ancestors immediately. In another development, at the Han family estate, the little sister Olu apparently couldn't sit still as her mother had told her to, and started making trouble. But the kid somehow kicked a camera and brought down a whole pillar. It didn't stop there. This little troublemaker also casually ripped off the steel door because she couldn't enter the password, then conveniently swiped one of her mom's supercars. Olu thought that everything she did would go unnoticed by gods and ghosts, but But in reality, her mom had known everything all along through the surveillance cameras. She even knew this little troublemaker planned to swipe a car to go to the land of exile to join the child of the god. The assistant, seeing the situation, was extremely anxious and was about to run down to the garage to stop the young mistress from doing something reckless. But then she remembered that the family's cars were all equipped with a smart identification system designed by Su Yi, so only the madam and the young master could start them. However, she never expected the madam to aid the young lady by disabling all the car's identification systems. Just as Olu was struggling, not knowing how to start the car, the mechanical sound from the one next to it suddenly rang out. Wilderness system activated. User has been changed from Han Deep to Han. Ordu. Not only that, but as soon as the little lady sat down, the system announced it was automatically turning off wilderness mode to change the user from Han Deep to Han Olu and simultaneously switching to auto drive upon detecting the little lady was not yet 18. After a series of mechanical operations by the system, Olu also discovered that the location of the land of exile had been preset on a dashboard. Instantly, the little troublemaker decisively decided to drive straight to this location without any fear at all. Meanwhile, Mrs. Han had also observed her daughter taking the car, but did not stop her. She even indirectly helped her leave the Han estate. The assistant beside her, seeing the madam acting so strangely, was extremely worried, constantly advising her to reconsider and stop the young mistress. Although she knew her daughter would face danger, when she remembered her old friend, Vu Noyet, Mrs. Han seemed determined to let Olu leave, trusting that her daughter would definitely help the child of the god change the future. Very quickly, the little troublemaker Olu successfully left the family's territory and officially entered the bustling urban area. Although the lively scenery outside was very appealing, the little girl was still aware of her responsibility, knowing she wasn't out here to have fun. Moreover, the smart Olu had also realized that this was no longer the management area it used to be, because now this place belonged to the bad guys. Therefore, she was very cautious and chose to send a message to Lu Chi Chuan and the others first to get support. However, after waiting for a long time, no one had responded. She was starting to get anxious. Just then, the car system suddenly made a suggestion. The chat group is set to share user locations by default. The wilderness mode recommends you directly check the locations of your big brothers and sisters. A moment later, the positioning system detected two acquaintances, Lu Chi Chuan and Bui Tin Hoa, nearby, so it immediately turned the car around and took Olu to them without a word of explanation, leaving the little girl utterly bewildered. What the hell? Where are you taking me? In another development, the person sent to deal with Chu, he was also not getting a response from his comrades, even though he had been messaging for his dear life. Jiao Kuang, the mission you gave me is complete. The special grade was easier to deal with than I thought. Everyone, hello? Can anyone talk to me? Looking at the situation, the young man was starting to get a bad feeling, but he still tried to reassure himself that he couldn't possibly escape the maze and that he would be perfectly safe. Here, however, life isn't as beautiful as a dream. Whatever you fear comes true instantly. The young man had just finished his prayers when he suddenly burst through the window, handsome and cool as a god, making him feel extremely scared and question his own existence. How the hell did you escape my maze? At this point, Chewie didn't beat around the bush and just laid his cards on the table to get it over with. You chose to block me at a factory where people with no special abilities are concentrated, so I figure the object you control can only sense the movement of special abilities. Therefore, I conducted a small experiment, and the truth proved that I was completely right. The person at the location you were tracking was actually just my clone. Looking at the sword at his neck and He's mocking eyes, the young man knew he had unluckily landed on a lose-a-turn space. This is it. It's all over for me. There's nothing left to cry about. Next, He forced him to reveal some information, such as how many comrades he had in total, why he was the only one here where the others were, and most importantly, why Black Rings had special abilities. However, precisely because didn't choose to finish him off right away, this slippery guy had the opportunity to play a trick, using his ability to destroy the nearby workers' building, forcing to choose between continuing to pursue him or letting him go to save the endangered Black Ring workers. With no other choice, had to choose the latter, because after all, the lives of many people were more important. Only after confirming that he was no longer chasing him did he dare to call one of his comrades. Fact A, who was in a fierce combat with a robot teenager. Koi T, what's up? I'm very busy. Fact A, the situation has changed. I'm coming to find you now. Come on then, just don't interrupt my fun. Looking at the situation, it seemed the robot teenager was being cornered by this woman, as his system continuously issued a series of warnings. Energy core activation failed. Signal error. Meanwhile, over here, after letting Koi-T go, Chuhi quickly directed his little sticks to guide the endangered black ring wearers, while he himself charged directly into the collapsing building to rescue them. Because this building could collapse at any moment, he had to use 100% of his special abilities' power to get everyone inside out as quickly as possible. Even though he had to run until smoke came out his ass, there was still a large group of people trapped, but luckily, the birds arrived just in time to help everyone. Just like that, it wasn't long before He and his birds managed to get all the workers out before the building collapsed. Unfortunately, there was still one little girl trapped inside due to her mother's carelessness. Seeing this, He immediately ran to the woman to ask for the specific location, then quickly entered the rubble once more, hoping to rescue the child before it was too late. Meanwhile, inside the dilapidated building, the child had luckily survived by taking shelter in a sturdy warehouse. But with the leaking water level currently rising, it wouldn't be long before the child drowned before the clown could come to the rescue. On the other hand, the only exit was blocked, making it completely impossible for the child to escape on their own. So, they tried to reach for a hole in the ceiling, but unfortunately failed. Instead, the child fell straight into the water. Perhaps out of sheer panic, they thrashed about continuously, unintentionally causing themselves to sink deeper. It seemed like the kid was about to kick the bucket, but luckily, the clown arrived just in time to snatch them from the jaws of death, then successfully carried them out of the rubble. His ancestors must have really pulled some strings from the other side for this one. After reassuring the child and telling them to find their mother on their own, the clown left with peace of mind to deal with the next targets. Next, in another development, the robot teenager was being constantly cornered by that bitch named Thak. Even so, he didn't back down one bit, determined to fight this bitch to the death for the important mission programmed into his system. Suit Jigging warns the person blocking the way to stop attacking and leave. Warning complete, will not repeat. All individuals with special abilities other than Sam Noyet and Lord Vu Noyet can be dealt with. However, just at the critical moment, when he was about to deliver a fatal blow to finish off his opponent, the energy core in his hand failed to activate, followed by other energy cores being successively disabled, leaving him unable to continue his attack. Thak A, seeing his struggling appearance, which posed no threat at all, this Thak A became even more delighted and gloated. The reason she could be so confidently triumphant was due to her special ability to disable machinery. Next, she decisively launched a fatal blow to finish off Su Jigging, but luckily, he reacted in time and forced a shutdown before she could use her special ability to destroy his system. Seeing this, Thak A was utterly astonished, as she couldn't believe that a machine like him could resist the power of her special ability. She even wanted to dismantle him to study what was inside the son of the master weapon maker, Su Yi. However, before she could make a move, the supercar carrying the little Spitfire Han Owl suddenly arrived. On another side, Lu Jichuan had now figured out that Sam Noyet's newly awakened special ability was to see the FUT. That's why he could dodge his attacks so easily. But right at this moment, Sam Noyet unconsciously saw Lu Jichuan's future, where he would be stabbed by an enemy and blown to bits. Immediately, he lost control and demanded that he absolutely must not go outside, or he would lose his life. However, faced with Sam Noyet's strange behavior and the prophecy about his fate, Lu Jichuan seemed to care little. Instead, he began to suspect that his special ability hadn't truly awakened. Even so, Sam Noyet kept insisting that he hadn't seen it wrong. Although it was just for a moment, he was indeed about to be stabbed by an enemy, which was why he was begging him not to go out at this time. Seeing this, Lu Jichuan fell silent for a moment, as if believing Sam Noyet's prophecy. But as a favored son of heaven, the one said to be closest to a god, how could Lu Jichuan back down just because of some insects out there? You could say that in his 20-something years of life, this young man had never been afraid of anyone. Whoever came, he'd take them on. Whoever messed with him, he'd crush them. The more Sam Noyet tried to stop and warn him, the more excited he became, eager to go outside and see who was skilled enough to injure and finish him off. At the same time, outside, in a small, unnoticed corner, one of Qin Tian's underlings was secretly observing the fight and reporting back to him via walkie. "Taki, Brother Tian, the battle situation has reversed. The silver ring has been beaten by the black ring to the point of no resistance. Brother Tian, hurry up. If you don't come soon, things will get serious." Upon receiving the intelligence, Qin Tian didn't delay and immediately deployed his plan, starting by distributing supplies to the residents of the land of exile in the name of the Black Bear Gang, thereby luring them to where the battle was taking place. As expected, Qin Tian's move was extremely effective. In just a short moment, he had attracted a huge crowd. He must have known full well about the scarcity and hunger of the Black Ring people here, which is why he risked using the gang supplies as bait. As for those who heard the news, seeing such a good deal, they forgot everything else, not giving a damn about anything as they madly chased after Qin Tian's supply truck. In fact, they gathered in ever-increasing numbers. Seeing the crowd, as large as a Mongol horde, chasing the back of the truck, an underling with Qin Tian worriedly asked him if revealing the supply location to those people was a good idea, because he was afraid that if the big sister of the Black Bear Gang found out, the whole lot of them would have no choice but to hold hands and report to the king of hell in the underworld. "Brother Tian, if the big sister finds out, she'll rip our heads off and put them on a display cabinet." "What do you mean, It's just you." Seeing this slippery bastard deny his connection to him so quickly, the poor young man was helpless and could only sit in a corner and pray for himself. The more he thought about the intel from his underling earlier, the more Qin Tian felt something was off, because in his entire life, he had never seen or heard of such a ridiculous thing. Bui Tinhua actually couldn't defeat a black ring. This was truly too bizarre. Could it be that the black ring cheated? But if even a high-level one lost, then we'd only have one outcome if we go there, riding a crane to heaven. Although his mind was a mess, contemplating the life-and-death battle ahead, in the end, Qin Tian still decided to risk it all. He decisively told his underling to go full speed with an attitude of to hell with it. Life and death are fated. What the hell is there to be afraid of? At the same time, the battle between Bui Tinhua and Ha Mai was gradually coming to an end. Just one light touch from Ha Mai now would be enough to send Bui Tinhua to meet her ancestors. But before doing that, she wanted to preach some philosophy to Tinhua. "I always feel that the moment before death is the most beautiful moment for any person, because only then is it fair to all of us. In the end, no matter how strong one's special ability is, one cannot change their own death. Don't you agree? Sorry, I forgot you no longer have the strength to speak anymore." Listening to this bitch's rambling nonsense for a while made Bui Tinhua's ass itch. On the other hand, even though she was dead tired, she still tried to ask for the bitch's name so she could at least die with some satisfaction. However, before Tinhua could even learn her name, she sank into unconsciousness. She even began to hear her father's voice calling her name. And just a few seconds later, Tinhua was suddenly transported back to the first day she met her father as a child. That was also the first time in her life she saw a gold ring being scolded and having his ear pulled by a silver ring. At that time, the gold ring, who was the head of the Bui family, noticed her peeking from behind the door and took the initiative to greet her in a very friendly and affectionate manner. Completely different from the other gold rings she had met before, so she was quite timid and shy. Perhaps Mr. Bui also sensed Tinhua's wariness, so he proactively took her on a tour and kept making conversation to make the atmosphere less awkward. "I'm not bragging, but I'm actually very talented at growing them. All the vegetables used in this house are grown by my own hands. I'll let you try them at dinner." However, Mr. Bui's endless chatter didn't register in Tinhua's ears, and it was only after a long while that she finally mustered the courage to voice her concern. "Why did you save me? It's a pity to leave this interesting world at such a young age, isn't it? But I have no reason to live." At the moment of Tinhua's deepest despair and despondency, it was Mr. Bui who gave her the motivation to live, while also giving her a new identity, a new life. "I don't have any children, so if you don't mind, how about becoming my Bui Fanian's daughter from today on?" For Forget your past and become a member of my Bowie family. You don't have to be afraid anymore. No one will know you're still in Tien City, I guarantee it. Upon hearing Mr. Bowie's offer, Tinhua was incredibly surprised because she knew well that sheltering her was extremely risky. Even the entire Bowie family could be implicated if she stayed. However, Mr. Bowie reassured her that it wouldn't happen, and if he had cared about that, he wouldn't have brought her back in the first place. What do you want me to do for you? I must have a purpose for you to agree to stay, right? Well then, in the future, please help me protect a child with limitless potential just like you. After that, to strengthen their father-daughter bond, Mr. Bowie excitedly led Tinhua to his vegetable garden and taught her how to harvest vegetables for dinner. While there, she accidentally came across a small, injured bird in the grass. Seeing that it had no chance of survival, she intended to put it out of its misery quickly to spare it from suffering. Seeing this, Mr. Bowie quickly stopped this little Spitfire from killing the poor baby bird and intended to use his special ability to heal it. But in Tinhua's eyes, his action looked no different from roasting the bird. Are you planning to burn it to a crisp? Hearing his daughter say that, Mr. Bowie was at a loss and had to explain it to her. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, yin-yang, and sound. All high-level special ability users can control certain elements to varying degrees, and in Tien City, high-level special ability users are countless. But do you know why only a few special ability users can become special grade? I believe there are two key points to mastering a special ability. With that, he used his fire ability to heal the bird, not only healing its wound, but also allowing it to fly freely as before. Looking at the scene before her, Tinhua couldn't help but be amazed because she had never seen anyone use a fire ability like Mr. Bowie. She guessed this must be the legendary flame of resurrection, which not only doesn't harm living things, but also helps heal all external injuries. After seeing that Tinhua seemed very interested in this skill, Mr. Bowie continued to explain and share his experience. If you see fire as a highly destructive attribute, it will be a weapon that takes your opponent's life. But where there is life, there must be death. Conversely, if you see it as a symbol of life, it can also save you from danger. In other words, how a special ability works depends entirely on the heart of the user. You can call it the heart fire, if you like. It was from this moment of enlightenment that Tinhua decided to inherit and pursue her old man's art of fire dancing. After that, Mr. Bowie happily led her on a tour of the rooms in the villa and introduced Sister Man to her. At first, everything was really difficult for Tinhua, as she could only create a tiny flame, while her old man sometimes used too much fire, almost roasting her alive. However, Tinhua didn't give up or get discouraged because of this. On the contrary, it made her even more enthusiastic in her training. And to encourage his daughter's spirit, Mr. Bowie clearly emphasized that fire was not her innate special ability. So if she wanted to catch up with others, she could only practice diligently. That's why in the following days, Tinhua tried to pour all her energy into practicing her special ability frantically and without rest. From morning to night, day after day, she always trained relentlessly like a tireless machine just to get her body used to the pain of being burned by fire. She didn't even let Mr. Bowie rest, insistently dragging him to train with her. Gradually, she finally mastered the heart fire and no longer felt pain or burning from the flames. But this small achievement was not enough to satisfy her, even though Mr. Bowie advised her not to push herself too hard. Because even if she couldn't master the heart fire, he still believed she would become an outstanding special ability user in the future. However, in Tinhua's perception, she had long felt that she was not qualified to comprehend its wonders. But it was still too early to give up, so she asked her father to continue teaching her. And of course, Mr. Bowie was very pleased with her eagerness to learn and readily agreed. In the days that followed, Tinhua once again threw herself into training like a madwoman, day and night, even while eating, bathing, and sleeping. She dared not neglect or miss a single moment, because Tinhua's fire ability training was becoming increasingly dangerous and easy to lose control of. Causing fires, Sister Man invested heavily in dozens of fire extinguishers as a precaution. Otherwise, one day this huge villa would burn to ashes, with not even a belt buckle left. After that, despite continuous failures in developing her fire ability skill, Tinhua never seemed to have any intention of giving up or getting discouraged. Instead, she became more and more resilient. If the first time didn't work, she'd try a second time. If the second time didn't work, she'd try a third time. If the third time didn't work, she'd try a fourth time. Just like that, Tinhoa ultimately had to go through countless failures to achieve the desired result once. Time flew by in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, it was Tinhoa's 10th birthday, so her father and sister man threw a small party for her to celebrate. Mr. Bowie also took this opportunity to give her a new pair of hairpins to replace the one that had broken. "Here's your gift, daughter. Since the one you usually wear is no longer usable, I asked a friend to make an identical one. He's the strongest weapon master in the city. I had to beg him for a long time. Do you like them?" Faced with her father's care and attention, Tinhoa became even more determined, promising not to disappoint him and that she would definitely protect that child for him. But Mr. Bowie advised and explained that this was a gift for her to protect herself, not that he was giving it to her for someone else's sake. However, the beautiful dream didn't last long. In the blink of an eye, the entire illusion of her father and sister man before Tinhoa's eyes dissolved into darkness, causing her to chase after them in fear and panic, despite the surrounding tendrils wrapping around her, not letting her go. Finally, after much struggling, Tinhoa finally caught it, but just after that, it vanished into nothingness once more, plunging her into despair. But a miracle happened at this very moment. Tinhoa somehow managed to unleash her fire ability with fierce intensity in the dark night. She even began to hear her father's words of encouragement from the past. Like an untamable, blazing fire, your destiny is now in your own hands. Even though she's not the main character, the beautiful Tinhoa is still favored by the author, getting a flashback power-up to heal. This time, that bitch Hamai is in for a world of hurt, for sure. Meanwhile, Hamai was still naively thinking that Tinhoa had logged out, so she carelessly turned her back to leave. It wasn't until her accomplice, Zhao Kuang, warned her from behind that she realized something was wrong, but unfortunately, it was too late, because Tinhoa had managed to grab her leg and create an explosion that shook all four directions. So much, so that even Lu Jichuan and Sam Noyet inside the barrier could feel the intense tremor. They guessed that it was highly likely Tinhoa's side had started to fight seriously. More importantly, Sam Noyet was now determined that he absolutely could not let Lu Jichuan die because of him, so he deliberately tried to hold him back. But Lu Jichuan seemed to have figured out his intention and warned him, "Don't use that stupid brain of yours to imagine my fate. Lu Jichuan, have never been afraid of anyone, because all those who wanted to take my life have already been reincarnated." And over here, before Hamai could even recover from being blown away by the explosion, the beautiful Tinhoa stepped out with a comeback, as lit as free fire. "The Queen Mother has returned to the palace. All of you get out of my way." At this moment, Zhao Kuang finally realized the seriousness of the problem. They had truly underestimated and looked down on Tinhoa's abilities, which is why they ended up in this situation. Moreover, the biggest weakness of Han Mai's special ability was poor information. Once the opponent became wary of her touch, the opportunity would be lost and the advantage would be gone. On the other hand, Bowie Tinhoa's ability to break the deadlock was truly astonishing, to the point that he had to suspect that this kind of monstrous power couldn't possibly just be a silver ring. And perhaps this was related to why she became a target of the 8 great families. Not only that, although Hamai was seriously injured, she stubbornly wanted to continue the fight with Tinhoa. Zhao Kuang knew very well that in her current state, she was sure to lose, so he advised Hamai to reconsider. But looking at his comrade's determined eyes, he was helpless and had no choice but to let her do as she wished. After that, she answered Bowie Tinhoa's earlier question. "This time, you better listen carefully. My name is Hamai. Too plain, it doesn't suit you at all." Although she was chatting cheerfully with her opponent like this, Hamai knew that her current physical condition was not good at all, because she could clearly feel the shattering pain in every part of her body. However, in some miraculous way, she felt happy about this instead of despairing at facing the gates of death. Very quickly, Tinhoa took the initiative to challenge Mai once more to settle the score. After all, she was still feeling a dull ache in her chest from Mai's earlier attack. If it dragged on any longer, she wasn't sure she could hold on. Moreover, she didn't want others to see her in such a pathetic state, especially Lu Jichuan. Going back 18 years ago, a shocking event that shook heaven and earth occurred at a place called Luyi Mountain Villa, attracting immense public and media attention at the time. The cause was Lu Jichuan's special ability creating a powerful storm and wind, affecting the weather of an entire large region. It must be known that people who awaken special abilities that cause such extreme weather phenomena are extremely rare and unusual. Only a few God-level individuals recorded in history have the ability to turn the universe on its head like this. For this reason, many people at that time were convinced that Lu Jichuan would be the fourth recorded god level. Even Lord Vu Noyet, who was present at the scene, implicitly confirmed this, even though she had always detested the existence of the so-called rings. For those of us within the walls, it is thanks to the rings that we can openly exploit and oppress others, as well as monopolize most of this society's resources. As long as the rings exist, twisted desires and meaningless killing will never stop. The rings are a lie created by some people. Unfortunately, I am one of them. Therefore, Vu Noyet was even more hopeful that Lu Jichuan would break out of here instead of becoming the next one. Like her, of course, in a dog-eat-dog society, her hope of breaking the rules and those who benefit from them was considered rather naive. Not to mention, it directly touched upon the interests of other high-ranking families. So not everyone agreed with Vu Noyet's views and demands for reform. Even to this day, there are still some people, typified by this short-haired bitch named Tan Dai, who are still extremely contemptuous and show disdain whenever mentioning what Vu Noyet tried to do before she was overthrown. The same goes for this member of the Gui. After all, both of them are loyal hunting dogs of the Lamb family, not the fucking Vu family. This time, the Gui member came back to meet her just to remind Tan Dai of one thing. That is, no monster is willing to return to its cage after experiencing the freedom of flying outside. If she continues to bet everything on the black ring test subjects, she might one day lose everything. Seeing her say nothing, he continued to lecture her. In reality, no matter how much you build, you can't resist it. Special ability users and monsters are fundamentally different. A special ability genius like Lu Jichuan will only use his superpower during the process of using his special ability and then gradually develop to his maximum potential. But there is only one outcome for your monsters when they use their power indiscriminately, and that is death. Do you understand what I mean? This Tan Dai wasn't stupid enough not to understand his words. This was clearly a direct slap to her face, so she became furious and immediately questioned him. I told you to give me more time. You can't even do anything useful to hold back those fools in the council room. You just stand here and mock me? And it took a moment for her to realize she had been a bit rude and lost her composure. But it was this strangely different behavior that made the Gui member notice something unusual about her. Could it be that you found this special body? Returning to the battle between Bui Tinhua and Ha Mai, the two seemed to be nearing the end as Ha Mai had decided to go all out and fight Tinhua to the death. Even her comrades noticed her one-way trip intention. The kid holding the bear next to them was anxious as hell seeing this and begged his senior beside him to quickly stop Ha Mai. However, Tian Lang was extremely impatient and immediately shouted, scaring him into silence. You idiot! How many times can you save her? She won't appreciate you for it. Even Zhao Kuang next to them didn't step in to help, only silently accepting Ha Mai's predetermined fate. What else could the group do but wait? Moreover, Ha Mai had now unleashed all her power, covering the entire area with her special ability. Jumping in to intervene now would leave you with nothing. As for Bui Tinhua, seeing the brilliant purple scenery before her, she wasn't the least bit afraid. On the contrary, she even exclaimed that Ha Mai's special ability looked beautiful. With that, she immediately used her fire ability to incinerate everything around, while also planning to send Ha Mai off so she could be on time for her reincarnation. However, at the critical moment, Tinhua was sneak attacked by the kid holding the bear. And Zhao Kuang took this opportunity to save Ha Mai and quickly turned tail and fled. Brother Zhao Kuang, how is Sister Ha Mai? She's still alive. Sorry, Dodo. I've troubled you. Next, Zhao Kuang immediately contacted another accomplice, Koi Ti, and requested him to come to the land of exile as fast as possible to treat Ha Mai's injuries. Anyway, they still had to complete their first mission as soon as possible and return to the lab. But before Zhao Guang could even figure out the next step, the Black Ring refugees suddenly swarmed towards the containers behind them, leaving him utterly confused, not knowing what the fuck was going on here. During the chaos, a young subordinate of Shun Tian managed to sneak through and luckily opened the supply storage. successfully achieving the plan's objective. As soon as they saw the pile of supplies in front of them, everyone seemed to lose their minds and rushed in like moths to a flame to fight over the goods. Fuck you, this is mine, that's mine too. It's all mine. However, in that chaotic scene, a kind little girl happened to notice Mei's injuries and proactively approached her. Seeing this, Jiao Guang immediately became wary and asked the little girl what she was planning to do. At this, the little girl honestly replied that she wanted to share some candy, because if you have sweet candy in your mouth, the wound won't hurt anymore. The innocent answer greatly surprised Jiao Guang, but before he could react, the little girl was physically struck on the head by some guy. Not only that, he also fired his gun into the air a few times and loudly threatened everyone around to quickly drop all the food in their hands. Not even a single grain of rice was to be taken. At the same time, they also declared that from now on, all these supplies will be taken over by the cannibal gang. Actually, Jiao Guang didn't want to get involved with this bunch for nothing, but some guy who liked to court death insisted on showing off. Acting all high and mighty, he pointed his gun at Jiao Guang's head, threatening to feed him a bullet if he resisted. Jiao Guang at this point was like, "Oh, I'm so scared of you. If you got the guts, come and get me." Seeing this defiant face, the bald guy got even more pissed off, but before he could pull the trigger, he was skewered by Tian Lang from above using his special ability and was sent straight to his grave. At this point, the chaotic scene of looting and fighting temporarily stopped. Everyone here looked as if they had just found a new horizon. Not only did they all look towards Tian Lang in unison, but they also hailed him as a savior come to rescue exiles like them, which left both Jiao Guang and Tian Lang utterly bewildered, not understanding what the hell was happening. Not only that, the Kid Duo then reported that the target, Bei Jinghua, had disappeared. It turned out that Qin Tian had taken advantage of the chaos to help the injured Bei Jinghua escape from the scene. Running to a deserted corner, Jinghua asked Qin Tian to put her down and leave before the enemy found them, but he refused to leave her behind, because at that moment, he heard the sound of a barrier opening, which meant that both Lu Jichuan and Sam Noyet had officially entered the game. "Oh my, it's so lively here, huh?" As soon as he appeared, Sam Noyet frantically looked around but couldn't see any sign of Bei Jinghua, so he was very worried, afraid that something bad had happened to her. In contrast to Sam Noyet, Lu Jichuan remained perfectly calm because he knew full well that she must have already found a way to escape the danger. Instead of worrying, he was more interested in his opponent. Having just met, the sharp tongues of the two young men, Lu Jichuan and Tian Lang, immediately started a war of words. In particular, the young man Tian Lang was an extremely impulsive individual. The moment he finished speaking, he unleashed his special ability to attack Lu Jichuan and Sam Noyet, not giving a damn about all the other innocent black ring people who got caught in the crossfire. This sick bastard even took great pleasure in watching people trample each other to escape his attacks. After getting bored of toying with them, he turned to challenge Lu Jichuan. "We finally meet. I've been waiting for you for a long time." Seeing Tian Lang act like this, Jiao Guang immediately gave him a little reminder, because if he fought Lu Jichuan now, he wouldn't be able to guarantee Xia Mei's safety. Anyway, you all should be a little grateful. You should know best whose child he is. Lu Jichuan suddenly brought up something so confusing that Sam Noyet couldn't help but ask again what on earth he meant and why they should be grateful to him. At this point, Lu Jichuan no longer bothered to hide it and directly revealed a shocking secret to him. "Sam Noyet, listen carefully. All the black ring wearers who can use special abilities, they were all nurtured with Lord Wu Yu's blood to get to where they are today. Because this was beyond Sam Noyet's imagination. He temporarily couldn't accept the reality before him. On top of that, that bastard Tian Lang deliberately emphasized it to piss off Sam Noyet and Lu Jichuan. It seems the child of the gods still doesn't know, huh? Do you need me to personally explain it to him? Fuck you, shut your damn mouth." After that, Sam Noyet turned to ask Lu Jichuan once more for confirmation. "You mean the source of their special abilities is from my mother? So what else is there that I don't know?" Since Sam Noyet would have to face these things sooner or later anyway, Lu Jichuan decided to tell him everything he knew. Actually, back when Wu Yu was imprisoned, the Lin family proposed researching Lord Wu Yu's immortal special ability so that more people with special abilities could extend their lifespan. Except for the Lu family who refused to participate, each family sent a special grade ability user, but the Su Kana experiment was a failure. This led to the 7 participants who received Lord Wu Yu's blood not only failing to achieve immortality, but also turning into something neither human nor ghost, almost like the living dead. After that, the lab shifted its target to the Black Ring people, who had a large population and were easier to control. Even Liu Jichuan himself couldn't believe that those scumbags actually managed to do it. On the other hand, his Liu family had investigated the location of that lab many times, but unfortunately, to this day, they still haven't found any clues. Upon hearing these words from Liu Jichuan, Sam Noyet was extremely traumatized, because it must be known that in the rankings of the 8 great families, the Liu family's overall strength ranked 3rd and had never dropped, even though the rankings had changed twice. Clearly, the Liu family status and power were not ordinary, yet they could do nothing but stand by and watch, so Sam Noyet himself certainly couldn't do a damn thing right now. The more he thought about it, the more helpless he felt, wondering just what kind of terror was ruling Celestial City. Furthermore, he also realized the truth that Liu Jichuan, Bei Jinghua, and the others protecting him would obviously become enemies of Celestial City. But with their meager strength, how the hell could they fight against their immense power? Even Sam Noyet himself couldn't manage his own situation right now, let alone protect everyone and liberate humanity. Seeing that he was starting to waver, Liu Jichuan immediately warned him not to believe their bullshit. The reason the enemy sent these guys here was to break your inner defenses. At the same time, he also reminded Sam Noyet of their mission, which was to break the unjust rules governing this world. However, Sam Noyet basically didn't understand those damn rules, so he didn't give a shit. The only thing he cared about here was his mother, because throughout all these years, he had always dreamed of his mother and knew she was waiting for him, so he had to save her at all costs. Seeing the determined look in Sam Noyet's eyes, Liu Jichuan was finally somewhat relieved. Although he knew full well that relying on him right now was a fucking long shot, at least he had this assurance from him, so everyone would surely try to make a reality. As for now, their job was to take down these Black Ring people to extract more information about the lab's location. Those guys must know the lab's location, right? Then we have to hurry and capture them for interrogation. That's what I want too. Let's do it while it's hot. That bastard Tian Lang, listening from the side, was like, "Oh, I'm so scared of you." Just as the two of them were fired up with determination, a damn magpie appeared out of nowhere and took a shit right where Liu Jichuan was standing. Although Sam Noyet quickly noticed and pushed him away, it was unfortunately too late. Liu Jichuan still got hit by bird poop. The young man immediately froze solid. What the hell? Damn you, Zhu He. And in that very second, the 3 of them, Su Qi, Zhu He, and Olu, immediately appeared to complete the 5-man Power Rangers team. We're here, bro, returning to when Jinghua was fighting. Zhu He, after rescuing the distressed Black Ring people, finally received a message from Olu. And as soon as he learned that this 14-year-old girl had come in her brother's place to protect the child of the god, he could no longer remain calm and immediately asked for her current location to go and help. At the same time, the little troublemaker Olu had gone up to the bridge where Su Qi and Ta A were fighting. Luckily, thanks to the car's fancy modern technology, the little girl landed safely before being flung into the damn sea. Meanwhile, that chick Ta A was still processing, not understanding what the hell was happening, when Olu immediately rushed into attack, catching her off guard. But luckily for her, her accomplice Chi Si arrived in time and pulled her away, successfully avoiding Oli's attack. However, looking at the scene of destruction caused by the little girl's terrifying power, both of them knew this was not going to be an easy fight. As for Olu on this side, she seemed very dissatisfied for failing to take down the target. But luckily, Su Qi reacted and quickly recognized her as an ally. Immediately after, he used his psychic positioning ability to scan the surroundings and quickly detected the enemy's presence, as well as Chi Si's special ability. So he warned Olu to be careful of what's under her feet. Sure enough, just a few seconds later, that guy Chi Si used his special ability to destroy the bridge's structure, aiming to sink them into the sea below. But because Su Qi had anticipated this, he reacted in time and pulled Olu to safety before that section of the bridge completely collapsed. Even so, the two were still unlucky enough to be caught in a dilemma, stuck in the middle, unable to advance or retreat. Worse still, the bridge was severely damaged and would soon collapse in about a minute. According to Su Qi's observation, the estimated distance from their position to a safe spot above was quite far. Furthermore, when he entered Ta A's control range, he would be forced to shut down his power. But her ability posed no threat whatsoever to Olu, so he planned to throw the little girl over first to ensure her safety, on the condition that she had to find her own footing, and this was a one-time opportunity. As soon as he saw that, Olu understood and agreed. Suchi tied a rope to her and prepared to fly up, but who would have thought? He hadn't even taken off when he was yanked back for an unforeseeable reason. The weight exceeded the limit. The young man looked at the little troublemaker, Olu, like, hello, what the hell, lady? Just then, another section of the bridge collapsed, making the situation even more difficult. Out of options, the two had to resort to their last option. Meanwhile, that chick Ta A and her accomplice Chi Si took advantage of the chaos to slip away, but before they could leave, the two players Olu and Su Chi used the fancy car to jump across the bridge. However, that chick Ta wasn't going to let them off so easily, so she used her special ability to affect Su Chi's machinery. Even the car couldn't escape her grasp and fell straight into the damn sea. However, before that chick Ta A could even celebrate, the boogeyman Zhu He arrived, not only managing to save the little troublemaker Olu and Su Chi in time, but also quickly defeating them in a matter of seconds. And to prevent these two from escaping, Olu cleverly used a rope to tie them up like two rice cakes, not forgetting to warn them to behave and stay put. Don't think of any funny business. If you dare to secretly use your special abilities, be careful or I'll beat you into a pulp. However, right after that, Zhu He unexpectedly called Olu aside and told her to go home immediately. You did very well today, but that's enough for here. You should go home now. The little girl heard this and was stunned and bewildered, like, what the hell, old man? Praising me and then telling me to leave? Actually, many years ago, before Oli's brother Han Yi had his accident, the two siblings had visited a temple on a mountain to see Zhu He, who was practicing asceticism. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and greet Uncle Zhu He. What's wrong? Don't want to call me uncle? Then you could just call me old man. After teasing his little sister, the young man Han Yi sat down to talk with Zhu He, also bringing him some vegetarian pastries from home. At first, Zhu He didn't want to accept, but under the pressure of Han Ye's nagging, he had to accept, otherwise he'd have to listen to his friend grumble until the next morning. Of course, the reason Han Yi traveled such a long way wasn't just to deliver a box of pastries. He actually wanted to tell Zhu He something important. That is, Oli's special ability might very well disappear in the future. Because according to Han Ye's observations, every day after nightfall, she becomes just like a normal person without any special ability. Deep down, they both knew well that Lord Wu Yu was targeted for her immortality. Besides immortality, power, the city walls, and all past disputes stemmed from human greed. And Oli's special ability was now about to disappear inexplicably. This could be said to be an extremely rare case of special ability erasure. So he was worried that once this truth was discovered and exploited by others, the consequences would be unimaginable. The little girl might even have to become a second Wu Yu or a victim of this struggle. Therefore, after finishing all necessary preparations, Han Yi decided to find Zhu He, because after all, they had to wait another 2 years for the prophesied day. Before then, he would try to investigate the cause of the disappearing special ability, and Zhu He had to help him keep this secret. Upon hearing this, Zhu He immediately understood the importance and danger of the matter. So before seeing the two siblings off, he didn't forget to remind Han Yi to be careful, completely unaware that this would be the last time he saw his brother safe and sound. And it wasn't until he received Han Ye's final letter asking him to take care of Olu that Zhu He knew something bad had happened to him. Returning to the present, Zhu He was still trying to persuade the little girl to return to the Han family for her safety, but the current situation didn't look very promising, because it was clear that this little troublemaker had no intention of listening. On the other hand, Zhu He realized that there was now no way to go back the way they came, so he decided to let Olu accompany them for the time being. Then he would let the car's Yuan Yi system take her out through another door. And on the way back, Zhu He would continuously update the situation and call her until she was safely home. However, Olu immediately refused his request to get in the car and retorted, "Brother Zhu He, can you treat me as an independent person? I know what it means to fight and I also understand the consequences of losing. Moreover, I came here with determination after careful consideration. So please don't see me as a friend's little sister who needs to be taken care of. I am a special grade ability user, Honolo, and I voluntarily became the protector of the child of the god in my brother's place. In that brief moment, Juhi seemed to see a faint glimpse of his former self in Olu. Seeing his hesitation, the little girl immediately used the girl's most powerful weapon to attack her big brother's last line of defense. Why tears fall. The game is over. Out of options, Juhi finally had to give in to the little girl's wishes, but in his heart, he silently apologized. Tuhonye. Well, keeping her by my side counts as taking care of her, right? Very quickly, the three of them, Juhi, Olu, and Su Chi, got into the car to head to Sam Noyet's location. But before they could even warm their seats, the smart car suddenly acted up. Not only did it turn off the auto drive system on its own, but it also threw a tantrum because they hadn't paid attention to it, almost letting it drown. Seeing such a sassy car for the first time in their lives, everyone was completely speechless. Despite that, little Olu was still very optimistic. It's okay. It's just a self-driving car. We have big brother Juhi here now. With that, the little sister naively turned to ask Juhi to drive. However, what no one expected was that Juhi didn't know how to drive. In the end, Su Chi had to drive while he just sat in the back chanting sutras. Driving mode 2.0 successfully loaded. Driver Su Chi, count down a car start. Seeing a robot drive a car like this for the first time, little sister Olu was extremely excited and couldn't help but ask him, "You have an internet connection in your head, right? You can search for any knowledge you want to learn instantly." "Yes, that's right. That's amazing, brother Su Chi. You're like a high-end computer that can move." Hearing how multi-talented Su Chi was, Juhi immediately took the opportunity to ask him to unlock Chi Si's phone password to extract more information. On another side, every single move of Jiao Guang, Chi Si, Ta-E, Xiaomei, and Tianlang had been monitored from the very beginning by someone with a clairvoyant special ability from the 8 great families, without them knowing. The half-breeds are too weak. I don't know what the fuck Shi Qingda is thinking, spending so much money to raise such useless things. So useless. Seeing the clairvoyance user getting impatient, the demon-like man next to him reminded him to continue observing and wait, because the performance their master was waiting for hadn't started yet. Hearing this, the clairvoyance user smelled drama and coaxed him to share more information. At this point, the demon-like man no longer hid it and revealed that the master had personally chosen the 6 of them. However, the specifics were still being kept secret. Even close associates like him weren't told much more. Although he didn't say it directly, the demon-like man was actually very dissatisfied in his heart. There must be some special skills and connections between these 6 that I don't know about. Every time we talk, he's never clear with me, just tells me to keep guessing. Even the management of the lab was given to an outsider. Seeing this madman about to lose his shit, the clairvoyance user had to find an excuse to continue monitoring them and leave to avoid being caught in the crossfire. Back on Sam Noyet's side, the 3 of them, Juhi, Olu, and Su Chi, finally arrived, bringing along Chi Si and Ta-E, who were tied up like rice cakes. Although everyone had just reunited after a long time without contact, given the current situation, Juhi and everyone else tacitly understood that now was not the time to reminisce. Except for the young man Lu Jichuan, who had just been shat on by Juhi's bird. Almost everyone had no objections. At this time, Jiao Guang also realized that 2 of his accomplices had been captured, but he didn't rush to deal with it. Instead, he quietly told the kid Duo to go find Bei Jinghua, and then secretly signaled Tianlang. Immediately, the 3 of them, Sam Noyet, Lu Jichuan, and Juhi, sensed the killing intent from the 2 of them and quickly reminded Olu and Su Chi to be careful and to watch the hostages closely, absolutely not letting go of the rope. Meanwhile, just before Sam Noyet could guess Lu Jichuan's next move, he was already 1 step ahead of him, setting up another lightning barrier for protection, while he himself continued to advance to combat the enemy. Following that, Tianlang used his special ability to attack them, simultaneously creating a diversion to save his 2 accomplices. But Olu spotted it in time and thwarted his plot. However, he didn't seem to care much and just focused on attacking Lu Jichuan. Unfortunately for him, Lu Jichuan was no pushover either, so almost none of his attacks could even touch a single hair on his head. After getting bored of toying with each other from a distance, the two young men immediately switched to close combat. To heat things up, real men settle things with their fists. You punch me once, I have to punch you back. Once. Long story short, neither of these guys would back down. It's one thing to fight with their hands and feet, but the foul mouths of these two were no less fierce, constantly trading insults without a clear winner. Whatever the fuck you've got, just bring it all out. Don't waste my precious time. What the hell are you so arrogant about? You think I'm scared of you? Just like that, the more they fought, the more intense they got. The more they cursed, the more enraged they became. Initially, Tianlang planned to use his black dust control ability to trap Lu Jichuan, but tough. Luck for him, Lu Jichuan keenly noticed and countered instantly. Don't think you can fool me and get the better of me just by turning into dust and taking a demonic form. You're still too green and naive, kid. After that, Jichuan didn't hesitate and charged forward, landing a heavenly punch on him. This blow was so powerful that an entire building behind them seemed to be destroyed. Of course, Tianlang was also quite seriously injured after taking a hit, and he looked pretty pissed off for suddenly being at a disadvantage. If I wasn't distracted controlling the black dust and dealing with those other three, how could I have let you injure me? Son of a bitch. Immediately after, Tianlang ruthlessly pulled out the iron bar impaled in his body and instantly stood up to continue fighting Lu Jichuan. But this time he was a bit smarter. That is, instead of just biting down on one person and not letting go, he targeted his two accomplices and pulled them away while Olu wasn't paying attention. On the other hand, because Olu was holding the rope tightly in her hand, when he pulled the other two away, she was also dragged along with them. Luckily, our little troublemaker was fine and quickly reacted to the situation by using her strength to pull the hostages back, absolutely not letting that bastard Tianlang achieve his goal. Not only that, Su Qi, who was beside her, also immediately ran over to help, so things were temporarily stable. However, right at this critical moment, as they were struggling and pulling with all their might, the old wound on Ali's shoulder suddenly burst open and started bleeding. Su Qi, who was next to her, saw at a glance that the wound was getting serious and suggested she unbutton her shirt so he could perform emergency first aid using his treatment mode. However, Yulu immediately refused and demanded that he keep this a secret until she had driven back the enemy. Seeing how stubborn this little girl was, Takai had no choice but to reluctantly agree, considering it a way of respecting her point of view. Thus, they both had to fight for a quick and decisive victory. At the same time, over on Chuhi's side, he wasn't idle either, as he had to fight the enemy with all he had while also keeping an eye on Sam Noyet and Yulu to see if they were in any danger. Meanwhile, Sam Noyet, who was enveloped in Lu Qi Shuyan's barrier, wasn't having an easy time at all, because his dark alter ego had now appeared and begun using abusive words to psychologically manipulate him. So annoying. Lu Qi Shuyan, this arrogant guy, completely looks down on you, trapping you in this 1 square meter cage, shaping you into a weakling who can only stand by and watch. What are you still hesitating for? Don't you want to prove them wrong? You see that what I'm saying make a lot of sense, don't you? As soon as I appear, this whole drama will end right then and there. Seeing Sam Noyet remain silent for a long time, the dark alter ego thought he had been convinced, but who would have guessed? This genuine article of a young man didn't pay any mind to his bullshit at all. On the contrary, he was still lucid enough to be self-aware, distinguish right from wrong, and refute his point of view. It's not shaping, it's the truth. I am the weakest one here, that's indisputable. Their target should have been me. In fact, they clearly knew he was the weak point in this battle. Yet, in a situation where they were outnumbered, they still stubbornly confronted the strong head-on and left him to one side. Logically speaking, this was truly foolish. Furthermore, from the beginning of the battle until now, Sam Noyet had always felt a strange sense of unease whenever he looked into Zhao Kuang's eyes. At this moment, he suddenly recalled the conversation with Lu Qi Shuyan when they were both still inside the barrier. Back then, he had vehemently tried to stop Qi Shuyan from going out because he had foreseen his fate, but he just calmly replied to him, saying, "I'm willing to believe what your eyes see, but open them wider and take a closer look. A mouth that's always spouting such unpleasant words is very unlucky. To put it simply, what Chi Shuyan meant was, the advantage is scary, but I've never been afraid of any motherfucker, so I'm not scared. At this point, the dark alter ego saw Sam Noyet muttering and pondering to himself like some loner and got a little impatient, approaching to inquire. What the hell are you talking about? Hurry up and explain it clearly to me. Too noisy. Get the hell out of here. Suddenly seeing Sam Noyet being so firm, the dark alter ego had to retreat. Now, with the psychological shadow gone, Sam Noyet seemed to have seen his own heart clearly and realized his own worth. He wasn't actually as useless as he had said. However, just as he had realized a new truth, Sam Noyet suddenly fell into an illusion separate from reality. Looking at the desolate, horrifying scene before him made him feel extremely tense and scared. But most importantly, Sam Noyet had no damn clue why he had suddenly appeared in this godforsaken place. On top of that, while he was confused and unsure what to do, he accidentally touched a substance that resembled black dust. Immediately, Sam Noyet guessed that it was highly likely because he wasn't yet proficient in controlling his special ability that he had entered this bizarre dimension. Not one to sit back and take it, he decided to risk exploring the surroundings to find a way out and immediately came across a child here. Although Sam Noyet found the child's appearance rather strange, he couldn't help but approach out of curiosity, while also calling out to warn him. Hey kid, this is a place for ability users, so it's dangerous. You need to follow me and get out of here now. Can you stand up? Just as he finished speaking, a loud warning bell rang out. On top of that, he kept asking, but the kid showed no reaction, making him even more anxious. Little brother, you have to leave here with me. Hurry up. However, just a second later, the alarm bell suddenly stopped. Not only that, the child who had been silent and motionless suddenly spoke, greatly surprising Sam Noyet. To be able to enter my fifth layer of consciousness, it seems you're not as weak as you appear. As soon as he heard the child say this, Sam Noyet immediately let go of his hand and warily asked who he was. The child didn't seem to have any intention of hiding it, so he directly told him his name was Zhao Kwong. After saying that, he lifted his face and looked straight at him, specifically revealing his special eyes. At the same time, he also revealed a shocking truth to him, which was that he was actually also a child of God, just like him. While Sam Noyet was still bewildered, not having processed this load of information into his memory yet, the kid suddenly pulled him into another dimension, with the reason that this place was not suitable for talking. And just a few seconds later, they both suddenly appeared at the old warehouse, where Sam Noyet used to live with his older brother Aithwan. Looking at the familiar warm scene, he couldn't feel happy at all because of the kid's attitude. So that's it. This warehouse is the safe place in your consciousness. To be honest, this place isn't much different from my room. It's just square like a box for storing toys. Finally, Sam Noyet couldn't hold it in anymore and demanded that he stand up and not touch Aithwan's memento, this sofa. Right at this moment, he suddenly heard a gunshot. Though it was only for a brief moment, it obviously brought back the painful memories he had hidden for so long. Sorry about that, for making you recall unpleasant memories. So, shall we continue our chat? Then, chat my ass. What the hell are you up to with your eyes? With Sam Noyet suddenly getting so tense, the kid felt a bit guilty but still vehemently denied it, claiming he didn't understand. However, Sam Noyet directly exposed his scheme. You're lying. You're clearly stalling to keep me here, aren't you? The place just now wasn't your consciousness at all, nor was it mine. Even at this point, this slippery kid still acted innocent and naively asked Sam Noyet back, why would I need to hold you here? Because you know that only I can see through your scheme. Right after hearing these words from Sam Noyet, the kid finally couldn't argue back anymore, proving that he had hit the nail on the head. With him, although he still didn't know what his special ability was, if what his eyes saw wasn't the truth, then he would choose to trust his other senses. For example, his hearing, which perceived the gunshot, his sense of smell, which detected the metallic scent of blood and the acrid smell of gunpowder. From that, he could easily determine that the kid in front of him was an enemy who not only wanted to understand his living environment, but also intended to use his past to create a place identical to his memories. Truly a dirty, underhanded scheme. At this point, the kid had no way to deny it, but he only wondered one thing, which was why he could discover it so quickly. Was it not perfect enough? But the reason Sam Noyet didn't fall for his trap was simply because, for a long time, there had been no safe place for him in his own heart. Finally, the kid's illusion also disappeared, meaning Sam Noyet had successfully returned to the real world to inform everyone that everything they were seeing was not actually real. At the same time, Bui Tinhoa was also gradually recovering her strength thanks to her flame of rebirth, while Tantien sat right beside her on guard, in case the enemy ambushed them both. Perhaps this was the first time in his life he had seen such a magical flame, so he was a bit curious. He couldn't help but keep looking, and somehow ended up meeting Tin Hoa's loving gaze. And so, the guy immediately froze up, having to pretend to ask about her well-being to ease the awkwardness. How much longer are you going to be healing? A serious injury naturally takes time. You think I made of steel or something? After a while, Tantien calculated that at this distance, it was highly likely the enemy would find their position very soon. Luckily, his subordinate's car was waiting outside, so he suggested taking her away from the battlefield to a safe place first and then treating her injuries slowly. However, Tin Hoa immediately refused because she guessed that Zhao Kuang guy would definitely send someone to confirm whether she was still alive. So she had to stay here to divert the enemy's attention. Furthermore, Tin Hoa deliberately emphasized that it was best for Tantien to leave as soon as possible, because if he stayed, he would only get in the way and disturb her healing. Although Tin Hoa had a sharp tongue, Tantien knew full well that she was actually saying that to push him away and avoid getting him involved with no ill intent at all. But right at this moment, they both suddenly sensed an unusual aura and immediately went on alert, ready to face the enemy. However, when they saw that the newcomer was a tiny little kid, they immediately froze in surprise. Damn it, is there some kind of mistake? Returning to Sam Noyet's side, he finally realized that the chaotic dimension around him and the images of everyone were all just a dream. More accurately, it was a dreamscape created by Zhao Kuang's special ability. His plot having been exposed, he didn't bother hiding anymore and directly came out to face him. You could guess this is a dreamscape? How smart. But the world before you is collapsing piece by piece. Aren't you afraid? If it's a dreamscape, what's there to be afraid of? It seems your special ability is to create dreamscapes for others, right? As long as the control person doesn't realize it, they'll be trapped inside and can't get out, is that, right? But once the opponent realizes it's a dreamscape, they can escape your manipulation. It's just that controlling multiple people in a dreamscape must have certain limitations, which is why you created a dream within a dream to stop me alone, using a so-called consciousness space to interfere with my perception in order to prolong my stay in the dreamscape. Am I right? Actually, according to Zhao Kuang, his guess wasn't entirely accurate because he never intended to use this shallow layer of dreamscape to trap them for too long. He just wanted to buy some time to save his comrades from their hands. However, the thing he least expected was his powerful awakening ability, because just 2 days ago he was still an ordinary black circle, yet today he already possessed such an incredible observational ability. Hearing this, Sam Noyet immediately retorted that this actually had nothing to do with his special ability at all. Even if he weren't an ability user, he would still see through his dreamscape, simply because he didn't want to involve the people around him. What an arrogant guy. Anyway, the space in the dreamscape is about to end, Sam Noyet. It's a pity that our conversation so far has only taken place in a dreamscape, so I hope to have the chance to talk with you in reality. For now, it's time to return to our opposing realities. Sam Noyet's ass was itching from listening to this guy's nonsense, but luckily he didn't have to listen to him anymore and could return to reality to wake up his friends. Right after that, everyone finally came to their senses. Even that Tian Lang dude escaped the dreamscape and wasn't actually seriously injured from fighting with Lu Chi Shuyan. However, what Sam Noyet's group didn't expect was that these dogs had taken advantage of the dreamscape to injure Yu Lu and rescue their comrades. Perhaps due to the effects of the dreamscape, none of them noticed. Even Yu Lu didn't feel any pain when she was injured, and it wasn't until they returned to reality that everyone found out. Seeing the youngest member of the group like this, both Lu Chi Shuyan and Shu, he couldn't maintain their composure and rationality, wishing they could immediately rush forward and risk their lives against these bastards to get revenge. Meanwhile, Takai quickly went to support Yu Lu, then activated healing mode and stopped her bleeding, while also reassuring her so she could calm down. While Sam Noyet's group was in a state of utter chaos, the culprit was gloating over Yu Li's pain. It turns out, right from the start of the battle, they had all unknowingly fallen into Zhao Kuang's dreamscape trap. By using a secret signal, he had silently informed them that the battle situation was unfavorable, and they needed to enter a collective dreamscape to hold them back. leaving their comrade Tianlang alone to deal with the four of them: Luqi, Shuyan, Chuhi, Takai, and Yulo. As for himself, he would deal with Sam Noyet. At first, when approaching Sam Noyet at close range, Zhao Kuang was quite overconfident and looked down on him because he didn't look like anything special. But just as he was about to strike and harm him, he was suddenly injured by Lu Qi Shuyan's barrier. This was truly something he couldn't have anticipated because, in reality, very few people could use their special ability in a sleeping state like Qi Shuyan. Not only that, Sam Noyet had also started to react slightly, which surprised him even more and made him see the two in a different light. Seeing that he couldn't deal with Sam Noyet and Qi Shuyan, Zhao Kuang quickly switched to rescuing his two comrades, telling them to get up and leave quickly because there was a problem with this collective dreamscape and it couldn't be maintained for much longer. Actually, Zhao Kuang had intended to leave quietly like this, but that bitch Thak, it wouldn't stay put. Perhaps because she was too salty about being grabbed by the neck earlier, she deliberately shot Yulu to get revenge. And that was precisely when Sam Noyet, inside the dreamscape, suddenly heard the gunshot. Although in the dreamscape, everyone including Sam Noyet felt that a lot of time had passed, in reality, the entire event had only taken place in a few short minutes. Returning to the present, Koi T, after preparing, informed Zhao Kuang that they could now proceed. This also meant that right after this, the fair fight would officially begin. However, the situation now seemed to have become more disadvantageous for Sam Noyet's side, because Yulu was quite seriously injured and had to be treated by the Kentucky. Fortunately, he had performed emergency hemostasis on the abdominal wound, so her life was not in immediate danger. And the more worrying issue was the wound on her shoulder. As soon as he learned how serious Yu Li's injuries were, he felt extremely guilty for not having protected her completely, as he had promised Han Deep. As an older brother, he had been negligent and careless, letting his little sister get hurt. Seeing her in pain, his heart felt helpless as he couldn't do anything, only able to offer gentle comfort. At this moment, Sam Noyet also quickly ran over to their side to check on Yu Li's condition. But before he could take more than a few steps, he was caught by Tianlang's black dust, making the situation even more serious. On another side, Tan Tien was also struggling with the little boy Du's stuffed animal to protect Tin Hoa. Although it was just a toy, this thing was also buffed with a special ability, so the force it unleashed was quite something. It wasn't long before it made physical contact with Tan Tien's face and lightly took one of his teeth. Even so, the guy didn't show any weakness and even got more fired up to fight back. Motherfucker, you dare break my tooth? Today, I'll show you what the power of an 8-time consecutive champion of the King's Tournament really is. I'll open your eyes. But just as Tan Tien was about to throw hands with the stuffed animal, Tin Hoa suddenly stopped him and told him to look over to the other side, only to discover that the kid's special ability was to share. Love, a type of ability characterized by shared damage. This meant that he would also suffer the same damage as the stuffed animal, even though he wasn't the one being directly hit. At this point, Tan Tien finally understood why the little boy Du's face was bruised as if someone had just beaten him up. If that was really the case, how could he continue to attack a child? Helpless, he had to ask Tin Hoa, "Hey, it seems he and that constantly happy rabbit have some kind of relationship. I hit the rabbit, but he gets hurt. What should I do now?" At this point, Tin Hoa also vaguely understood why that Zhao Kuang guy had sent this kid alone. It turned out he had already calculated that they wouldn't have the heart to attack a child. On the other hand, she noticed that he didn't seem to feel the pain from the punch just now. And to clarify her suspicion, Tin Hoa decided to ask him, "Hey kid, what's your name?" However, the boy was probably still traumatized by her crazed image from before, so he was very scared, to the point of not daring to answer. Only when Tin Hoa promised she wouldn't lay a hand on him did he open his mouth. "My name is Du. Du, what's your last name?" "I don't have a last name." Du, you just saw me deal with your teammate, Hamai. How about it? If you don't want to nut like that, get out of here now. Due to moral considerations, both Tin Hoa and Tan Tien didn't want to harm a small child like this, so they tried to use gentle words to persuade him to leave quickly. However, the kid was extremely stubborn. Not only did he refuse to leave, but he also said he had to deal with them to complete his mission. Tan Tien and Tin Hoa were fucking speechless after hearing that, because it was obvious that with his meager strength, trying to defeat two adults would be harder than climbing to the sky. Tan Tien even put on a cold face and threatened to beat him up, but he was still very stubborn, stating bluntly that he wouldn't go anywhere until he defeated them. After that, Tin Hoa also continued to persuade him. If I'm not mistaken, overusing your special ability will cause your body to suffer a severe reaction, like how you can't use a disposable plastic cup to hold boiling water. Do you really understand what you're doing? Are you planning to use your life to take me out? Even after all that, this kid still didn't get it and was convinced that as long as Tin Hoa, Sam Noyet, Chi Shuyan, and Akai kicked the bucket, the city of celestial beings would recognize their high-level status, and they would be adopted by major families and be able to live in a place full of ability users, the city of celestial beings. The kid was so naive that he even begged Tin Hoa and Tan Tien to cooperate with him and promised not to harm them anymore. Hearing this, both of them knew this kid was fucking beyond saving. His ideology was just unbearably warped. After a long speech where not a single word got through to him, Tin Hoa finally ran out of patience and did a complete 180. From a gentle maiden, she turned into a witch, making both Tan Tien and the kid do scared shitless. Talking is useless. I guess I'll have to use the rule of the right hand to teach this kind of person a lesson. Although he was quite scared when he saw Tin Hoa about to beat up the kid, Tan Tien still stepped in and advised her to calm down because, after all, he was just a child under 10. These thoughts are probably tied to his living environment. That's why he's like this. If he can let go, just let it go for him. However, Tin Hoa was determined to resolve this matter because her comrades were suffering out there because of her, so there was no way she would sympathize with her enemy, even if the opponent was just a naive child. Moreover, Tin Hoa had made her stance clear from the beginning. She had no obligation to save any of them, so don't bring up some tattered morals to bind her. You reap what you sow. With that said, Tin Hoa moved forward and used her heart flame to deal with the teddy bear first. No matter how the kid screamed and begged, she didn't stop. Even Tan Tien, standing beside her, when he saw Tin Hoa's ruthless and decisive action, couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine and exclaim, "This girl is truly too terrifying." As a result, the happy teddy bear was burned by her fire into a pile of black soot. As for the kid Doo, Tin Hoa temporarily spared his life, while not forgetting to teach him a lesson, that the number of times you can rely on your age to get pity is limited, so don't make her regret giving him away out here. After that, Tin Hoa decided to hand the kid over to Tan Tien, while she herself returned to the battle to support her comrades. As for everyone else at this time, Sam Noyet being captured was so sudden that they couldn't react in time, not to mention Yulu was still seriously injured. Taking advantage of the group's chaos, Tianlang quickly used his special ability to control black dust to ambush the three of them, Chu He, Takai, and Yulu, in order to finish them off. However, how could Lu Chi Shuyan let him have his way? As soon as he saw Sam Noyet being taken away, he immediately rushed out and quickly grabbed Chu He's firearm to rescue him. "Motherfucker, let Sam Noyet go." Then, as Sam Noyet was in free fall, about to hit the ground, Chi Shuyan managed to catch him in time and successfully snatched his little life back from the jaws of death. "You only caused more trouble. I was only gone for a moment, and you were already about to die. Don't let your guard down. We're not out of danger yet." However, Lu Chi Shuyan had just finished speaking when that bastard Tianlang suddenly attacked. He could only push Sam Noyet away in time, while he himself took the hit. Importantly, this scene was identical to what Sam Noyet had seen through his special eyes. In this life-or-death situation, everyone wanted to rush forward to help Lu Chi Shuyan, but because they were blocked, they could only watch helplessly as their comrade fell. It didn't stop there. Tianlang also took this opportunity to grab Sam Noyet, leaving the whole group truly beyond saving. When Tin Hoa arrived, she only found Chu He's sword left behind. There was no sign of anyone else. After that, she tried searching the area for her comrades, but only found a battered Lu Chi Shuyan emerging from the rubble. Seeing his tattered appearance was enough for her to know how brutal the last battle was. On the other hand, neither of them was happy to see each other again in this situation. One had a bruised face, the other had a few holes in her body, looking no different from wounded soldiers. More importantly, Sam Noyet, Chu He, Takai, and Yulu had been captured and were most likely locked up in that bizarre structure. There, after pondering for a while, Chi Shuyan decided to temporarily find a place to rest and recover first. After all, with the little strength they had left, the two of them couldn't possibly rescue their teammates. Not to mention, they could lose their own lives for nothing. Once they found a nearby shelter, Chi Shuyan told Tin Hoa that Han Deep's younger sister, Han Olu, had joined them on his behalf. But the girl had been severely injured by a gunshot earlier, and now her whereabouts and whether she was alive or dead were unknown. Hearing this, Tenhoa felt even more helpless, unable to save her own teammates, even though they were being held captive right before her eyes. Furthermore, the gloomy, rainy weather brought back her unhappy memories. I hate the rain. It reminds me of the day we took the special ability test. The air had the same musty and rotten smell back then. Do you remember what happened after the test that day? It happened a long time ago. How could I remember? Is that so? Anyway, thank you for forgetting that day. Then, afterwards, the two sat down and confided in each other to relieve the pressure. Lucci Shuyan was the first to speak. Our teammates are trapped, and I'm here wasting time. Why don't you ask for the reason? You said there are teammates, which means you care about their condition just like I do. For you to still want to rest in this situation, you must have your own reason. So this is completely normal. However, Lucci Shuyan suddenly said he was scared, which made Tenhoa feel utterly nauseous. Huh, what the hell? Am I hearing things? A prodigy like you know's fear? So disgusting. At this point, Chi Shuyan explained more clearly. He was afraid of himself losing control, not of a strong enemy. Actually, a long time ago, when he was just a child, Chi Shuyan had already awakened his special ability. But the terrible thing was that he couldn't control his power, which led to him injuring those close to him. So everyone back then was afraid and looked at him like a monster. In theory, only those who control their special ability deserve to be called ability users, while those controlled by their ability are just slaves to it. Therefore, for a long time, Chi Shuyan had always tried to discreetly suppress his power. And even now, he is still terrified whenever he thinks about losing control or being dominated by his ability. But instead of sympathizing with Chi Shuyan, Tenhoa just found the whole thing bullshit and couldn't help but kick him a few times. Listening to your tragic story just pisses me off. I can't sympathize even a little bit. Is this any different from someone who eats gourmet food every day and then complains? Oh, I'm so full. I really don't want to wake up every day to eat expensive food in a 5-star restaurant. Manipulated and suppressed by your ability. By how much? 90%? Let me try feeling what it's like to have an endless supply of power. If I could, I'd willingly take this misfortune from you for the rest of my life. The more she spoke, the more furious Tenhoa became. It's true what they say. Some have more than they can eat, while others can't even get a bite. Not stopping there, Tenhoa continued to use her sharp tongue to lecture Chi Shuyan, telling him that he wasn't the only one in this world who had to live with guilt. If you don't want the people you care about to get hurt because of you, you should be trying your best to protect them. So why are you locking yourself away like this? Besides, Sam Noyet firmly believes that we would risk our lives to save him. How much courage does it take to entrust your life to strangers you've only known for a few days? And what about us? Have we done anything right? I get easily provoked by a few words from the enemy, fighting recklessly and almost getting myself killed. And you're still stuck in the past, refusing to move forward. In this tattered state, what the hell are we going to use to win? To be blunt, on what basis do we assume we'll definitely win? Our rank? If rank decided everything, I alone would be enough to send them packing. Back home. But Lucci Shuyan, if even we easily believe that rank can decide everything, do we still have the right to change the world? Actually, it's not just you, it's me too. Perhaps the only one giving 100% is Sam Noyet, someone we see as very weak, right? So hurry up and snap out of it. Meanwhile, on the top floor inside the floating maze, Zhao Kuang's group had fully assembled. However, perhaps from overusing his special ability, Koi T had begun to show signs of exhaustion and was coughing up blood. Seeing this, Zhao Kuang rushed over to ask if he was okay, but was unexpectedly pushed away by Thak A. Get away! Don't pretend to be pitiful here. Suddenly seeing his comrade's harsh reaction, Tian Lang couldn't help but question the reason why. At this point, she didn't bother holding back or sparing anyone's feelings and blurted it all out for everyone to know that Tiktan Dai, the laboratory manager, had secretly met with Zhao Kuang many times. At the same time, she didn't forget to warn the others to be wary of him. I advise you not to trust this good friend in front of you too much. Otherwise, you might not live for many more years. Actually, ever since you first met Tiktan Dai, you started persuading Koi T and Tian Lang to research the combination of abilities, saying it was to prepare for emergencies, didn't you? What's the use of this? Building a maze of this scale, you know best what you're thinking in your heart. Faced with Thak A's exposure, Zhao Kuang offered no defense or explanation, merely remaining silent. Not stopping there, she continued by turning to Tian Lang and asking him, the fact that he and Ticton Dai met secretly, has he told you yet? Looking at your bewildered expression, it seems not. Huh? How am I still lying there? And what about Dudu, who arranged all of this? Seeing Thak A getting more and more worked up, afraid she would lose control, Koi T quickly stopped her and voluntarily admitted that he was the one who had agreed with Zhao Kuang to build this maze tower. Besides, this place is completely maintained by Tian Lang's black dust. To sum it up, he really didn't want to care about this anymore because, in any case, it was unclear where Zhao Kuang's loyalties lay. Hearing his close childhood friend being accused like this, Tian Lang obviously didn't want to believe it and asked for Zhao Kuang's opinion. But instead of talking it out clearly and explaining things face to face, he used the excuse of checking on Sam Noyet's condition to leave, making everyone there feel even more disheartened. But just then, Hamai, who had been unconscious, suddenly struggled to sit up and spoke. Let me be the one to talk about this. Returning to their side, perhaps Tin Hoa's words had somewhat gotten through to Qi Shuyan, as he now began to share more with her about his problem. When I'm tired, the chance of losing control is very high. Plus, I didn't sleep last night. How long do you plan to sleep for? Just spit it out. I don't know either, but you should stay a bit further away from here, because after I fall asleep, I won't know what will happen. Despite Qi Shuyan's warning, Tin Hoa paid no mind. She just found him annoying for making such a big deal out of just sleeping. Seeing how stubborn this girl was, Qi Shuyan didn't know what else to say to persuade her and had to give her one last reminder to leave quickly before he completely fell asleep. As for Tin Hoa, she just ignored the damn warning and continued to stay in the room with him. But very soon after, she regretted her impulsive decision because as soon as Qi Shuyan dozed off, a series of lightning bolts from the sky struck down repeatedly on the location of their room. Even more dangerous, Lu Qi Shuyan was sleeping soundly and had no reaction at all, even though Tin Hoa had screamed her lungs out trying to wake him up. Seriously though, this time they've gone a bit too far. At the same time, inside the floating tower, between Zhao Kuang and his 4 other comrades, a conflict had broken out. Conflict. While Zhao Kuang wanted to leave and avoid bringing up the matter again, Tian Lang had started to lose patience and demanded that Hamai tell them everything she knew about the relationship between Zhao Kuang and Ticton Dai. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the group of Sam Noyet, Takai, and Olu, despite being trapped in the maze, were fortunately still safe. Everyone seemed not to be too affected by the recent battle, except for Sam Noyet, who was the only one still unconscious. Initially seeing this, Olu was a little worried, but according to Takai's diagnosis and observation, he was completely fine with only a few superficial wounds, nothing serious. If there really was a problem, it was probably because Sam Noyet was too weak. For a grown man, his muscle mass was very low. Come to think of it, the most frightening person here had to be Olu. Recalling the battle earlier, Takai immediately reminded the young girl, that black dust, the more we resist, the tighter it constricts. So when it touched your body, you should have understood that. Moreover, using your strength like that to break free actually only made your wound worse. Next time you encounter an unexpected situation like that, you must gauge your own strength first. Although what Takai said was very reasonable, if given the choice again, the little troublemaker Olu would still choose to charge headfirst into danger. Even if the wound is more serious, even if it's a meaningless struggle, I have to try to know for sure. I don't want to sit still and do nothing. In short, this girl is just too stubborn. She doesn't even listen to her own mother, let alone a sworn brother she's only known for 2 days. A moment later, Sam Noyet finally showed signs of waking up, but because his reaction was too strong, he headbutted Takai in the face, almost fainting for a second time. However, when he calmed down, the only people he saw were Olu and Takai, so he thought the other 3, Tin Hoa, Qi Shuyan, and Shu He, had ascended to heaven and couldn't help but cry his eyes out. The young man even started to delude himself that this was heaven and everyone, including himself, had become spirits in the sky. Looking at this unreliable state of Sam Noyet, both Olu and Takai were truly speechless. Anyone who didn't know would never believe he was the child of a god. Hey Takai, when you were healing him, did you not scan his brain? An oversight. I forgot that the brain is also an important part of checking a person's integrity. Aya, How could you forget something so important? What if Brother Sam Noyet becomes mentally handicapped? And it took a while before Sam Noyet realized that everyone was still alive. Even Lucci Shuyan, who was sent flying to the factory area, hadn't kicked the bucket. Because at that time, the enemy's flow of special ability was almost entirely focused on creating this floating structure and binding them. So the blow that knocked Lucci Shuyan away wouldn't have been lethal. Olu also chimed in, advising Sam Noyet not to worry too much because Takai's analytical ability was incredibly formidable. If he said so, it meant Lucci Shuyan definitely wouldn't have lost his life. Moreover, it's been over half an hour since they were captured here. The fact that this place is still so quiet means the others have no intention of making their next move yet. Perhaps partly because that Tien Lang guy had overused his special ability at the time. Suddenly, Sam Noyet remembered Oli's wound and stood up, wanting to go over to check on the girl. However, he hadn't taken more than a few steps before he bumped his head into a massive rock. The young man was so hasty that his little sister couldn't even stop him. In time, seeing Sam Noyet's dazed and bewildered expression, Takai explained the principle of the staircase in front of them, that it doesn't allow people to leave the floor they belong to. Simply put, it's like a normal staircase, but without the function of letting people pass. The matter here can sense people's movements. Only Takai is able to move about freely. Olu then added that it was thanks to Chu He that they were able to figure out the rules here. Actually, after everyone was captured in the maze, Chu had a very hard time dealing with the rocks and masses of matter floating in the space here, because the structure of this building was completely different from the management area before, making him feel like the situation was like being inside the belly of a monster. Meanwhile, Takai was still diligently treating Oli's injuries, so the girl was in much less pain than before. But seeing him struggle to find a way out, she felt even more worried and anxious. Brother Chu-hee, it doesn't hurt that much. Don't worry too much. Just being able to look up and see you like this, I feel very relieved. On the other hand, Takai found it very strange that the enemy had left them here to heal and rest, so it was very difficult to analyze their intentions. Afterwards, Chu-hee decided to head upwards to check if there was an exit there, leaving Olu in Takai's care. With that said, he immediately set off, so fast that Olu didn't even have time to react. Because of this, the girl misunderstood that Chu-hee was deliberately avoiding her. Seeing this, Takai immediately reassured her, saying that he was actually just unwilling to show his weak emotions in front of others. That's all. Back to the present. After waiting for a while, Sam Noyet finally got to meet Chu-hee, one of the people who had been in contact with and close to his mother.